very special edition of Friedman Adventures, even though we only have Steve Oropesa here. I mean, we tried to get a real expert, but we got stuck with you, Steve. But we do have Gilbert Hernandez. Gil,
how's it going, guys?
Great to be with you guys.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. You got to talk into that thing a little bit.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, it's great to have you guys.
Yes.
Both of you guys from Promar. It's exciting because lobster season, I can't believe how fast this year has gone by. It's right around the corner. When does it start?
September 29th this year. So I think it's the earliest it started ever, I want to say.
Yes,
And
definitely Friday night.
Yeah, so that's a big change this year. They actually made the change like not too long ago. Originally it was going to be the 30th, and then they made the change that it's actually starting on Friday, 6 a.m. Technically, you can put your hoop nets in the water and fish for lobster. I don't think anyone's going to do that. There might be a few guys, but Friday night is when everything will kick
6
off.
p.m.
All right, well, perfect. That sounds good to me. I'm just going to read a few comments to get this thing going, but everybody, I'm going to ask you not only to hit that like button like you're already doing, really appreciate that, but also to hang on to your questions. We'll let the guys go through the lobster seminar, and then if you have to write a question in, you hear something interesting, do that. And I told these guys you'll stay till what, midnight?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
You really?
Well,
Yeah.
actually, I don't know about Gil. He's
Yeah.
got a hot date tonight. So.
Yes, hot date tonight. Got the boss in town.
Yeah, the boss is running
Yes,
our show
yes, she
here.
is.
You
She
know,
is
we should
running.
actually have her come out and say hello to everybody.
The
shouldn't we?
beautiful Danielle.
So let me read a couple here, just real quick. Chuck Zimmer, the president of the Redondo Rod and Gun Club, bring on lobster season. I'm with you, Blue Skies. Good evening, Blue Skies. Great to see you. Albert Ponce, good evening, Phil and Freeman Adventures family. Great to see you, Albert. David Rosenthal, good evening, everyone. Omar, welcome to the Theo Friedman to the house. Hey, Omar, good to see you. Always good to see all of you. So I'm going to wind you guys up and let you go. However, I got to tell you something, okay? I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I got invited last year on a lobster trip. Not really high up on my list. I was like, okay. And I went to Dana Wharf, and we went out, and I proceeded, and if Chuck Zimmer was there with his sister, I proceeded to have the time of my life, unexpectedly. Because I thought, oh, you throw that. I've done that before. And it was so freaking much fun. We had a ball. Chuck was there. A bunch of other people were there. We had so much fun. It was fun pulling the things. It was just, we were catching bugs. So it was really cool. And then the bonus is, man, you go home with some really good eating bugs. And not only that, they're super expensive now to go to the market and buy. A lot of that's getting shipped off to where I was teaching a few years ago to China. And so the bugs, the local bugs here, a lot of times you got to buy Maine lobster. The local bugs, which I think are better eating, spiny lobster, way better. Man, that was just a lot of fun. So I'm sold on it now, man. I'm looking forward to doing some trips. Our people keep asking about that, so definitely want to do that.
Awesome.
Yes,
All right, so there, you have my confession there. So let me tell you, who's going to start this whole thing? I mean, you guys are going to take over, do a seminar, and then we'll turn it over to our people and let them ask questions.
Well, Steve's the boss, so I work for Steve.
Steve, go ahead.
So what we'll do is we're going to run through, if anyone has not seen, we have a lobster one. We've actually done a couple of videos
You could hit that no thanks there.
on our YouTube channel, on the Promar YouTube channel, where we cover everything, the A to Z for our lobster hooping. We did it with Gil. We've done one on my boat. We've done one on the kayaks. We're basically going to follow that structure for this, and Gil's going to cover a lot of it. I'm going to cover the product side of it. And if anyone misses anything, or if we don't address something that someone is interested in, check out those videos. They're very thorough. We did a great job with them. They're about an hour long, give or take, and they cover every aspect of going out and lobster hooping.
Great, and a little birdie told me that we're giving away some free gift cards tonight. Is that true?
Exactly. So later on in the show, during the Q&A session,
We haven't even figured out how we're going to give them out, have
we'll
we?
figure something out. But someone's going to go home with a couple of or two people will go home with a gift card. They can use it on our website, buy some lobster gear, buy some fishing gear.
Danielle, you won! Congratulations! You're not pulling that, are you?
No,
Okay.
not tonight. But we'll give away some stuff so someone can grab some gear for this season.
Okay, very good. All right, well, I'll turn it over to you boys. Take over, and I can interject and ask questions.
Yeah, so
also.
Gil, if you want to start off.
Hey, welcome guys to the show. All you guys
Whatever
in
the name of this
all you guys in TV land, feel the
Just
show.
point right there. Yeah.
Freeman Adventures. Welcome to Freeman Adventures. This week it's going to be a great week. There's lots of seminars going on for lobster as you guys look at your local Turner's, Bass Pro Shop. A lot of stuff going on. But today we want to kind of hit on just some of the basics, and we're going to try to cover a lot of these things with questions towards the end of the seminar. So there's going to be a lot of things we might skip over. If any of you guys been to any of my seminars before, or read a blog, or watched an Arduino's article, or watched some of the videos, we get really in detail. It's like Steve said, reference those videos. Not only videos that I do, live videos in the water, but videos from our team as well in the studio as far as rigging a float, getting gear together, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So we have tons.
Not only do we have the videos too, but we also have some seminars coming up.
Yes,
right? So,
yes.
Gil's got a bunch of seminars. I know this Friday you got one.
Friday,
Sunday you have one.
Sunday, yes.
If you guys are interested in seeing all the seminars that Promar's putting together, visit promarahi.com. Go to the events tab on the website. That's going to show the long list of seminars that we have. If you guys are interested, feel free to attend those. Those are completely free to go to, and you learn a lot. So
yeah, and for the Turner's one, I would say in Lake Forest this Friday, I would definitely call and make a reservation. I know they're really big on reservations there. The Bass Pro Shop one on Sunday at 2 o'clock. It's a pretty big store. Bass Pro Shop's a pretty big store, so there's plenty of chairs for you guys to attend that one. But today, oh, here we go. Joaquin, what's up, brother?
Oh, he's outing
the
you.
Great Joaquin. Yes.
Joaquin Espinosa is a dear friend of mine. Joaquin and I did the first Spanish language fishing show in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Sitting right next to Kukui.
Yeah.
You know who that is, right? You don't?
no.
Get people that Mexican right as
no.
He's not Mexican.
We're gonna have a whole show on Joaquin.
Anyway, Joaquin, thanks for
Joaquin, yes.
thanks for spilling the beans on Steve here. He says you're drunk, man.
Yeah.
So
what are you gonna do?
So basically, guys, what I want to go over is we're just going to kind of hit on some points as far as a quick seminar for you guys. Like I said, and we'll have some questions and answers at the end, and then we'll kind of go over product. And we have some product here and kind of do some demonstration, but we want to go over is regulations. And regulations, guys, is going to be key to everything as far as you being on the water. You guys need to have a lobster card. Plain and simple. You need to have a lobster card. I don't care if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, you got to have a lobster card. People say, well, my teenager, he's not 16 yet. They need a lobster card. If you're fishing off the pier, you need a lobster card. If you're fishing off the jetty, you need a lobster card, right? All this stuff needs to be documented in the fishing game. And we'll kind of talk about documenting the process of the card in a little bit.
Do you only need a lobster card?
You also need your fishing license as well. Yeah, so if you're fishing, and you need to check your regulations. So what I tell people in all my seminars is I'm not a game warden. As you can tell, I don't have a bulletproof vest on. I'm not all in green, or usually at nighttime, they're all in black. I'm not one of those guys, right? I follow the rules and they make the rules. So every game warden is going to be different as far as their speculations. There's going to be standard speculations on lobsters, right? Things they have to abide by. But when it comes to other things, such as you don't put a 0 on your card at the end of the day, you know, I can say, oh yeah, you're going to get a ticket. Maybe they'll let you go, maybe they won't. And that's part of the documentation process. So when you have a lobster card, you have to document your lobster, okay? But before you go out, you have to document the area that you're hooping and the type of equipment that you're hooping with, okay? That needs to be done prior to leaving the dock, okay? Or wherever you're doing. So if a game warden shows up, say you just take off in your boat, and you take off in your kayak, and you're like Aaron Rodgers, and you're 5 minutes into the game, and you roll your ankle, okay? If you get out there 5 minutes into the game and they pull you over, you don't have your lobster card filled out, you're most likely going to get a ticket, okay? Now that's up to the speculations of the game warden, okay? Everyone I've talked to has gotten a ticket, okay? So it's your responsibility to fill out your lobster card prior to going out. Now when you're hooping and you're going to move, say you're at Newport and you want to go hoop Dana Breakwall or something like that, you have to document your lobsters at that particular area, okay? Now if you're moving to Dana and you get pulled over, or you're at Dana and you have your lobster card that you're at Newport and you don't have documentation that you're at Dana, you're going to get another ticket, okay? So the best thing for you to do is, before you even put your boat into gear, is to document how many lobster you're taking at Newport, document it, fill out a whole nother line, and then make your way to Dana Point or down south or wherever you're going to go. Everyone needs to have a lobster gauge on the boat as well, okay? Lobster gauge is very important to have a lobster gauge. And right now, you need to have Go IDs. The rules changed this year. Before, the actual person pulling the buoy needed the Go ID. So if me and Steve were pulling, he had 5 buoys and I had 5 buoys, or 3 and 3, Before, he would have to have his Go ID on the ones that he pulled, and I would have to Go ID on ones I pulled. Now it's just a standardized 10. If you have 10 hoop nets, so remember, if you're hooping by yourself, it's 5 nets. If you're hooping with a buddy, it's 10. It's no more than 10. So like say you take 30 guys, you can't have 30 nets, okay? It's 5 or 10, and it's 2 on a pier, okay? So you're hooping off a pier, you can't bring 10 hoop nets, okay? You got to do the math and bring the right amount of friends to do that, okay? But you can put your Go ID on just the 10 or the 5. Say you go out, you just want to do 5, and there's 3 of you guys. You just need to have one Go ID. And the Go ID is right here. This is my float. We'll talk about my float later.
So they actually made it easier for us.
They made it easier for us. And I think with Fish and Game, it's, lobster is it's a critical thing in California because a lot of people like to poach lobster because rumor has it they taste good. And they're expensive, right?
That's all those things.
Yeah, so usually people like to take short lobster.
It's a very valuable resource.
It's a valuable, in California, they love their lobster, and I get it. They love their lobster, and so all the documentation that they're doing over the years has been super vital to the conservation of our lobster, and it's actually made things better for us as anglers. They're doing the right thing. Say, remember, the right thing. So we want to, as fishermen and conservation people, we want to be able to do the right thing, and that's obeying the law. And the law is in place for us to have this for our kids and our grandkids and for more generations. So, but what I always tell people in my seminars is you need to do your homework, okay? The guy from Reading Rainbow, I don't know if you guys ever looked at Reading Rainbow, don't take my word for it, right? Don't take my word for it. Do your own research, right? Ask your own questions. Talk to the game wardens, okay? There's a lot of regulations out there as far as measuring lobsters, and people say, well, we measure the carapace, and some people say, well, it's, the lobster had some fur on the front of its horns, so I took that into account as part of the measurement. No, it's not going to work.
You just want to be really safe on this, right?
And what I tell people all the time is,
if it's close, toss them back, right?
I measure my lobster from the back to the front, okay? And I was taught that way from a game warden. And the reason why I was taught that way is that if you do have a really close lobster, and that gauge slides over the horns, okay? And what the game wardens are looking for, they're looking for the eyeballs to move. So if you put that gauge over the carapace, and that gauge slides down, and there's any movement on the eyes, the game warden's going to call that a short lobster.
So if you guys want to see an example of this, there's some really good footage of you measuring a lobster in the kayak lobster hooping 101, and you show exactly how to measure that lobster, a real lobster.
Yes.
So if you guys want to see that, check out that video on the ProMar YouTube channel.
And again, guys, we go through all these regulations on our 101 video, on our kayak video, in the studio. And if anything's unclear and you want to do something in person, come see us at one of our seminars.
Question. I'm guilty of something. I didn't return my lobster card.
Oh boy.
Am I going to jail, or what's the deal?
You're going to get charged like $35.
Oh my God, those rats.
$20, I think. So
really?
Yeah. So
it's 30 for fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is if you don't turn in your card at the end of the year, they just tack on $20 to the next year. So basically your lobster card goes from, I think it's like $12 to $15 up to like $35.
Oh, okay.
Like Gil just said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge penalty, but just turn it in. It's pretty easy. You can submit it online.
Exactly.
They make it super easy.
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't do it, Steve. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I don't know, you're drunk.
So moving on, guys, we're going to talk about gear. Like I said, regulations is a key thing. Let's talk about gear, the selection of gear, hoop nets, bait cages, rope management, lighting, and accessories, which is kind of like we could talk about this for days. We could talk about style of hoop nets.
Well, go ahead.
We have days, right?
Yeah,
we have days.
of
Let's get
course.
some pizza, man, in here. Pizza and wings, man.
You okay with that? Yeah, she's good.
He's like, let's do it. Yeah.
Hit that like button, everybody.
The ambush nets are something that I've turned on to over the years, whether it's your kayak fisherman. A lot of guys like to fish the 32-inch ambush or the 36-inch. We actually have our XL, our heavy nets as well that a lot of people like to fish the islands with. Steve can talk more into that as far as the netting. But the ambush net is like the key net that we kind of been really marketing over the years, and that I personally like. I like a 32 off a kayak, but if I throw a 36, I would definitely throw a 36 off a kayak. But a lot of guys, I think going into kayak fishing, lobster fishing, they want to do like this extreme thing. They want to bring the max nets. And what I tell people in my seminars is that it's like really foolish, because to manage 5 nets on a kayak or even on a boat, it takes a lot of work. You have to imagine, I tell this just going into our gearing, that you bait a lobster net, right? You drop the first one, no problem, right? So I'm pulling my nets every 20 to 25 minutes on a long soak, 40 minutes. So say you have 10 nets out, okay? You have 10 nets out. You go to pull your lobster pot, the first one, and your net's full of shorts. But you know for a fact they're not all short. You want to measure. So now you're measuring 6 lobsters, right? And now those lobsters at your bait, okay? So now you have to rebait, measure. 20 minutes have gone by, okay? You have to go pick up the next net, but you're still working on the first net, okay? Well, now you put your net on the boat, and now you lost position, okay? So now you got to refine position with your GPS or your Navionics app, and now you have to redrop that net, and 35 minutes has gone by, okay? So now you're 35 minutes late to pick up number 2.
You're losing lots of valuable time.
By the time you get to number 10, you're like an hour behind.
Yeah.
And now you're just chasing yourself, and it's a yard sale. So what I tell people, until you can learn how to manage the equipment, start really small. Start with 3 nets, Start with, game plan is the biggest thing. I tell people with their lighting, their headlamps, their pens. I always tell people the most important thing on the water is a pen, right? Because if you don't have a pen, you can't document anything. So why even go onto the water if you have no pen? Not just one pen, but several pens that work.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the documentation, lobster's all about documenting. Okay. So, but here I have an example of kind of like what we do when it comes to floats. And Steve, do you want to pour into a little bit of ambush?
Yeah, exactly. So before we get into the rigging gear, in regards to the hoop net, so Promar offers 4 different ambush hoop nets. Ambush hoop nets are actually the first, well, not the first hoop net, but the original design that was specifically made for SoCal spiny lobster. Everything else before, people were using hoop nets that were designed for crabbing. And then Promar came around and they figured, hey, these hoop nets that are designed for crabbing, they're not ideal for spiny lobster. Spiny lobster they're bigger in structure, so it was easier for them to get in and out of the crab designs. So we designed something that was more for the big, large structure lobsters, made the walls a little bit steeper, made the inside of the hoop net higher, so it'd make it a little bit harder for those guys to get out. And that's when they came out with the Ambush Series hoop nets. So we come with have everything from 32-inch, the original NE107 Ambush hoop net. We have the XL, which is a 36-inch. 36-inch hoop net is the biggest allowed in California. You can't go bigger than 36 inches. And then we have the 36. The XLH, which is heavier. Mm-hmm. That's what guys are using at Catalina. They weigh 14 pounds. In areas where there's a lot of current, a lot of weather, those are going to hold ground better. And then a couple of years ago, we came out with the XLHD, which is 24 pounds. And that primarily was designed to address the crabbing up in Northern California. There were some regulation changes there where they had to go from using crab pots to hoop nets, and that's why we designed those. But there has been some guys that have been doing well with them, with the lobster in deeper water over at the islands here. But primarily the guys that are using, that are fishing off of kayaks are using the 107s like Gil, the 32-inch, and the guys on small boats to bigger boats are using the XLs and the XLHs. The one thing that I will say about the XLHs is because they're so heavy, you don't want to pull those things by hand. I mean, if you're pulling, lots of times when we're out there, we're doing multiple sets of 10s. We're doing that 3-4 times. Yeah. Imagine pulling a hoop net that's 14 pounds by itself. That's without the drag of the bait cage, and if you have lobsters in there. Pulling it 10 times over and over again by hand, you don't want to do that. So we do recommend that you use a puller when you're doing that. Ace Line Hauler makes a great puller. Yes. There's some other, Scotty makes a great puller, but you definitely want to use a puller if you're using those XLHs or the HDs. Yeah. So that covers the hoop nets. And then Gil, why don't you get into the rigging of the
Yeah. So the rigging is, it's probably what mostly everybody comes to the seminars for, as far as rope management, setting your float up. And usually at the seminars, I have a float that's bright white, or usually when you go to your local taco shop or you order something, you're going to order a plain white float. And with the floats here, this is actually, this is a pink float. Pink is the new black. And so, right, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
You were right about him.
We have a video specifically on this at Promahi as far as how to set this float up, and you can reference that video for it. But basically, what you're doing is you're gonna counterweight this buoy so that because you want to have a light stick in here, and the light stick when you throw this in the water needs to go upright this way. And so the only way for it to go upright this way is you're gonna have to drill a hole down here. As you can see, there's a white spot here, and I have a hole back here that I have reflective tape on. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna put this thing perfectly balanced like this.
So you put a sinker in there, right?
Yeah, egg sinker, anything, just some type of lead.
Counterbalance.
Yeah, to counterbalance it to make it go upright. And then what I do is I have a number system when it comes to rigging, whether on my kayak 1 through 5 or 1 through 10. And we get really in depth in this in the seminars as far as management of these nets. Because if all your floats out there are white, and they have no address in them. I've been hooping with guys before where I go on their boat because I'm a licensed guide as well. I go on their boat or be with them, and they go in the water and they bring their floats and there's nothing numbered, and they end up pulling the same float like 3 times in the first like 20 minutes because they don't know how to ID anything because everything looks the same. And if you think you're going to go out there on the opener and you think that you're going to have the only one with a white float, be prepared because everyone and their mother is going to have a white float out there because they're not watching this seminar. So you need to have something that's going to separate you from everybody else. For me, we have the reflective tape there at Promar that I truly love. And I just get some mailbox stickers at Home Depot. What I love about these mailbox stickers is everything here is reflective. Even the sticker is reflective. And you can even spray paint. Some of my other floats have with reflective mailbox paint. That's a reflective paint. So if this light stick was to go out, and the cool thing about this light stick is we have people, I always say this in my seminars, is there's actually 3 settings on here, and we're going to tell you how we work them into our rigging. Is we have a solid setting, we have which is the dim setting, but when this is illuminated, it actually glows in the dark, and then we have a flash setting. So as I pull each net, as I pull it, I'm gonna change the setting. So when I drop it, the first setting is gonna be on flash. Okay, first setting is gonna be on flash. As I pull it up and check it, when I drop it back down, the next setting is gonna be solid. That's going to let me know that this net's been pulled, okay? Because management is a key thing when you're lobster hooping, and so you have no peripheral vision. Everything's just dark, and so it's like you're working in a tunnel all day long. So you have other people around you, all their lights are flashing. Doing this kind of system is going to separate you to get your hoops better organized through the night. Now, for me personally, and this doesn't work for everybody, I always get this. There's always someone in the crowd that has something bigger and better. Life goes on. But I use an extension cord winder. And this has been a game changer for me in the kayak because it keeps my rope perfectly managed on here. And the great thing about it is it acts as a cleat. So I can show you guys here. If I unwind it, all I'm doing is I'm sticking it through the handle here and then wrapping it around, and it locks it into place. Okay, so that rope is not going anywhere. I also have my rope marked every 5 to 10 feet with zip ties. So I have red zip ties here. And so that's going to allow me is if I look at my fish finder and I know that I'm in 35 feet, I can actually unwind the 35 feet on the deck of my boat or my kayak before I throw the hoop net over. Okay. The problem that people have is when they're throwing their hoop nets is they don't know how to retide, or they don't know how to adjust for the water depth that they're in. So a lot of times they'll throw 20 feet out when it's actually 35 feet, and their hoop net goes to the bottom, and they're not going to see it till the next morning when the tide goes down. Or vice versa, if you don't know how to retide, and say you have a 5-foot tide swing, and you adjust your nets for 25 feet, and you go back to get your net, but the tide has risen 5 feet, your lobster net is going to be 5 feet underwater. Okay.
So can I jump in here just for 1 second? I just want to tell Cue Ball and Balboa Fish Group, we're going to take questions at the end of the seminar. I really appreciate you all being here. Hit that like button. And also for $49.95, we have the new Freeman Adventures light sticks. And yes, remember, we're going to sell these tonight, right? Aren't these the light sticks? No. Okay. Just kidding about that. But hang on with the questions. When the seminar's done, we're going to get to all of you. Go ahead, Gil.
Go ahead, Steve.
So tell us about what happens if you don't have a rope management system and you have too much rope in the water.
Yes.
Let's say you're fishing 30 feet of water and you got a 75-foot shot of rope,
Yeah.
and you just chuck it out there, what's going to happen?
So that's
all kinds of bad things.
First of all kinds of
Yeah, I do know.
All kinds of bad things. The most important thing is it's very dangerous because you get stuck in boaters' props. And on the opener and the first couple weeks of lobster hooping, when people think that it's really good, which is actually really good throughout the whole year, but when they think it's really good for the first 3 weeks, you'll have boaters weaving in between the kayakers, and some guy or somebody doesn't know how to do line management, and someone's going to get hurt. Not only that, what's going to happen is you get a lot of tipping. And so what I mean tipping is when your ropes are really long, and say your net's here and your buoy's over here, you tend to pull this way, and what happens is your net tips.
Yeah. So if this was your hoop net and your rope's up here and you start pulling,
Yeah.
you're gonna start pulling like this. So
Yeah.
Your hoop net's gonna be going like this, and that's just gonna give the lobster an opportunity to get out.
Exactly. So what you want to do is you want to be as I always like to there's grace in it, three or so feet, so that you can pull on it. What you don't want your lobster buoy doing is you don't want it up like this. So if it's doing this in the water, that's a sign of your buoy telling you like, hey, I need more rope.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to be able to have some play, but what you want to do is you want to be able to get over the top of that hoop net. So what I do is in my kayak, or if we're with Steve and the promo guys in the boat, we'll just throttle up just so we get over the top of it, and when we're over the top of it, we give it a quick jerk and we pull it up. We don't want to pull sideways. And a lot of times what Steve was saying when it comes to line management is you're such in a panic, your line's all over the place, you panic and you start pulling this way, and that's when you get the tipping. And there's really no reason to even throw a net out if you're going to tip your net the whole night.
Right.
And on the extension cord winder, same thing. We have reflective tape and things such as that. I see a lot of people though, when it comes to line management, they have different systems. I mean, we have one in the boat that's different. We have more of a upright line management with a sinker. Yeah, we have, and you can do, and two, when you're doing like when you're working with like line pullers and stuff, we have actually a sinker clip-on weight that clips onto the back to where the excess rope will go behind the float, and that's fine, And a lot of people have their ropes set up for different areas. So like if you're gonna fish, if you're fishing religiously, fishing Long Beach, San Pedro, and like, hey, the max depth there is 45 feet. Okay, well you can cut your ropes to 45 feet, and then you can have a sinker on the back side that sinks down to the bottom.
Oh, that's a really good
idea.
And
then it gets everything out of the way.
Yeah.
For me, I'm traveling up and down the coast so much, I'm working with different levels all the time. Yeah. I'm hooping from 15 feet to sometimes 60 feet. So I got to have more rope management. And so some guys that go out there, they're more local, they can manage their ropes to say, hey, there's no reason for me to have 75 feet of rope.
And there's no perfect way of doing this. I mean, ultimately, the main thing is that you don't want a bunch of slack rope floating on the surface.
Yeah.
So if you have a way of mitigating that, of eliminating that in your gear, then great. That's you don't have to do it this way. You don't have to do it any other way. It just minimize the amount of slack rope that there is on the surface of the water, so that you don't create a dangerous situation for boaters around you, for kayakers around you. That's basically it.
Yeah, bad things happen at night on the water. So
all
you
the
gotta
time.
be really careful.
Yeah, all the time. And you want to talk about some of the styles of rope that we have? We have some.
So the different options of rope. So we have the floating poly line, which is this here, kind of what Gil uses for his rigging. We also have a lead core rope, which sinks. So the difference between those two is that floats, and the lead core rope sinks. And a lot of guys that are using the lead core rope are a little bit more experienced, because they're typically rigging up for exactly what they fish. So they know they're going to be fishing 50 feet of water. They know they're going to be fishing 20 feet of water. So the shots that they're using are specifically that length.
Yes.
And all that rope is sinking out. With this type of system, you're a little bit more versatile. So you can go out, leave the dock planning to hit a spot that is 15 feet. But you get there and there's 50 guys there already. So you have to have we talk about plan A, plan B, plan C in our videos and seminars. With this type of system, you're able to be versatile. So if that 15-foot area is covered, then you can jump over to your 30-foot spot and you can just pull out an extra 15 feet and just fish that 30. Or you go to a 60-foot spot and you can do that with this.
Yeah.
With the lead core rope, you can do that too, but then you have, it's a heavy rope because it sinks obviously. So you just, especially if you're fishing on a kayak, it's more weight that you're pushing around on your kayak when you're using that lead core rope.
Yeah.
So those are the major differences. If you have a boat, then the lead core, I personally prefer the lead core rope. It makes things a little bit easier for me. But if you're fishing on a kayak, then I could see why the poly rope is more favorable for those guys.
Yeah. I do have to read Cue Ball's comment, just one, because he's right. After the rope gets in the prop the first time, you'll learn how to manage your rope. The jetty is right next to you there sketchy. You know my experience. I almost ended up on the rocks.
Yeah,
really
down
close.
the beach, right?
There's got to be a 911. I called 911.
Well, the thing is when you're fishing lobster, it's all structure based. You're fishing around structure.
Rocks.
You're fishing around rocks. You're fishing around jetties. You're fishing around just structure. So if you get in a situation where your
lose power,
prop is you have a jetty, you have rocks, you have pilings. I don't know, a few, maybe 20 yards from you, and that if there's any type of swell or current, you could go right into those fairly quickly. So you always have to be careful about rope management. That's something that should be number one on your list as far as safety things. Obviously, everything you're fishing at night, so you have to consider so many different things that could go wrong, and you have to be prepared for everything. But typically, that's like the easiest thing to go wrong when you're out there, because everybody's excited. They're looking over. They're focused with getting the hoop net on the deck, and you think that you're pulling that rope. It's happened to me. You think you're pulling that rope onto the boat. You're paying attention here, but you're actually, you're pulling it here, and the rope's going right back out.
Spaghetti mess.
Yeah. So by the time you get the hoop net on the boat and you're looking at your lobsters, you want to maybe put it in gear, and all that floating rope is still behind the boat, and you end up running over your rope. So it happens.
Cue Ball's mentioning, he said the guy lost his boat on the Long Beach break. Well, I believe it, man. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens. Hey, are you having trouble hearing Steve out there? Because does Steve Bermudez need to turn his hearing aid up, or is anybody else having trouble? Because he's mentioning that up there. So just let me know. If we do, we'll start holding the mic closer to us.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's dangerous stuff. By the way, just off topic, did you hear about me almost going up on the rocks at La Bufadora? You hear that story?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
I think Pat or one of the boys.
Freaking brutal, man. We almost were in the blowhole. Yeah. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Go ahead, boys.
Be on the rocks lot, Phil. We're going to go fishing with you, man. We're going to be on the rock. We'll rock fishing.
That's why his sons don't go on boats with him.
Yeah, that I have to admit that is true. Yeah.
Well, moving on, guys, with the gear. So
turn your hearing up, Steve. Hearing aid.
You good, Steve, or what?
Yeah, I think so.
Not this Steve.
Oh, that's another Steve.
Yeah.
So we have when it comes to the lobster, we have the float, we have the light stick, we have the rope, we have the bridle on the actual ambush net. And
the hoop nets come with a bridle,
with the bridle,
so that's one thing you don't have to worry about when you're buying an ambush.
And so, like I said, there's a lot of nets that some people fish to lay flat nets, but the ambush nets are kind of what we kind of push in, and we get all types of people fishing different styles of nets out there.
It's the most productive, right?
Yeah, very productive.
If you're going out there and you're spending all this time, all this money to get out there, if you use a lay flat net, those lobsters can just get in and out.
Yeah.
Here in California, we're not allowed to use traps for lobster. We can only use hoop nets. So the reason that we can only use hoop nets, because we mentioned earlier, is that they're very protected. Fish and Wildlife said that, okay, we'll let you guys fish lobster, but with the condition that we have to be able to give them a chance, give lobsters a chance. So they have to be able to get out. With the lay flats, they can easily come in and out as they please. With the ambush hoop nets, they have to crawl in over the wall, the conical style design, and they can get out, but because of the design, it's a little bit more difficult. They can't just walk out.
Yeah.
They have to climb, and it makes it harder for them. So if you're already spending the time and money to be out there, just increase your chances as much as possible by using conical style hoop nets versus the lay flats. That's gonna improve your catch rate. It's just gonna make you more successful when you're out there.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah, and so in the net, we're gonna have a bait cage. And promo, we have the wire bait cages, and we also have the seal-proof bait cages, which I brought here. We're going to talk about this system a little bit later, but this is our seal bait cage by Promar. And they are sea lion proof or seal proof, however you want to say it. Depending on where you're fishing, It's going to be vital for you guys to use this particular cage because the seals are a problem. And if you have a seal chasing you at night and you're using a wire bait cage, you're going to go through a lot of bait. The great thing I like about the seal bait proof bait cage as well is that your bait doesn't get ghosted as much. Now, when I say your bait gets ghosted, basically your bait is losing the flavor because there's a lot of current going through it. So the seal bait cage tends to protect your bait a little bit better, and the lobster can't get to as much. If you have a wire bait cage, you better bring a lot of bait with you because it's going to be a feeding frenzy for not just a lobster, for eels, for fish, for sea lions, and so they're going to be picking at that all night. There are situations I say in my seminars where I'll use those wire bait cages, but it's far and few in between. But I do have some on hand that I use every so often, especially sometimes if the sea lions aren't really there and the bite's a little tougher and I don't have a lot of tide movement. I'll try to put a little bit more scent in the water, and we'll talk about scents, bait scent in a little bit throughout the seminar.
So the major differences between the two is with the cage, you get a little bit more dispersal of the bait versus the seal-proof, the PVC cylinder. The PVC cylinder is great for like Gil said, when there are sea lions around.
Yeah.
They can't tear those things apart. They can't open them.
So are you saying maybe have both and determine which one you use depending upon whether the sea lions show up or not?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely carry both. So what we typically do on my boat, and I'm sure Gil does this, he doesn't bring 10 bait cages for the 10 hoop nets. On my boat, we usually have 30 bait cages.
Yeah.
So we're cycling through bait cages all night long.
Yeah.
The thing that I've learned, maybe we can get into this later, but the thing that I've learned from going up north and fishing with the crab fishermen up north is that bring way too much bait.
Yes.
Bait is like the number one reason why people don't catch. That's what I mean, over the last couple of years, early on I was getting, it happens to everybody. You get frustrated. You go out, you put all this money in buying all this gear, you go out on multiple trips, and you get 1, 2, maybe you don't get anything, and you just get frustrated because you're spending all this money, you're spending all this time, it's cold, you're getting wet, you're away from your family.
Man, this sounds like fun.
and you're not catching.
Yeah.
And so what I found was, when that was happening to me, I was fishing the structure areas. There was current. There was, I thought I was doing everything, and I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on because I wasn't catching. And then I realized, back then I was only bringing enough bait for my 10 hoop nets. Maybe a little bit more, but just enough. And then we went up north, and we were fishing with with California Dawn, Captain Smith, James Smith.
Yeah. I talk to those guys all the time. I've never met them, but
that was the first time I saw we literally went out and picked up big bluefin carcasses and all this. I mean, literally those big gray trash cans. 2 of them, maybe even 3. 2 of them were full of bait.
Yeah.
Full of bait. And so we talked to them and we were like, hey, why do you need so much bait? They literally only do 1 set of hoop nets for crabbing, and they limit out. And we were like, and we didn't know this initially. We asked them, why do you have so much bait? You're only doing 1 set.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, as soon as these things get in, and if they're fighting each other to get bait, or if they pick away at it, as soon as it gets difficult, they're out of there.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're not stupid. They know how to get out of those hoop nets. So I took that into consideration
with lobster.
So I started just jam packing. Sometimes I put 2 of those seal-proof bait cages, and I put a bag underneath. I just fill it up. And as soon as I started doing that, I saw a big increase in
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That is logical.
It's a bigger disperse rate. You're putting out a bigger scent trail. And the biggest thing for me is using fresh bait.
Mm-hmm.
So I will literally go to the bait barge and buy 2 full scoops of sardines. I won't have my bait tank on. I'll just dump them in there. Bait tank's dry because I'm going to kill them anyways. I'm going to cut them up and put them in there. And I use all that bait. And that's what's produced the most lobster.
I've heard that.
Is just having a ton of bait in there.
Yeah. I mean, you hear a lot of these guys that say, oh, no, salmon, that's what you want to use, and blah, blah, blah. But some of these commercial guys, some of the guys I know down here, Mark Podal, they said, use what's in the environment.
Yeah.
What do you think they're eating?
Exactly.
Yeah. They're not eating a whole lot of salmon here. They're eating sardines and stuff like that.
And the biggest frustrating part for me was I was in the same spot that the guys that were, posting the next day, oh, I got limits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I was right next to you. How the heck did you get limits?
Yeah.
And I got
Liar.
2.
But they're not lying.
No,
They were
it was-
using more bait
yeah,
and
exactly,
fresh bait.
Exactly. So that's one hot tip that
That's a really good tip.
biggest difference for me.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
great.
and I think we're going to cover bait kind of a little bit later too.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll cover a little bit now and a little bit later.
There's no football game on tonight or anything that I need to go watch, is there?
No, there's no.
Okay, good. We'll keep
It's
going.
Wednesday, man. It's like what? It's Taco Wednesday or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Those guys aren't
Wednesday.
playing, are they? Notre Dame?
I'm a Clemson guy.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
We'll see you guys
Go
in
Tigers.
South Bend this
Oh
year.
yeah, you got us once, but we'll go Tigers. So the bait cage is as Steve said, the more the merrier. Don't just buy. I mean, if you're going to invest into something every year and ask for something for Christmas, ask for a Promar seal bait cage. Santa will bring you as many as you like. So the bait cages are great to have, and we're going to go over later when we talk about meal prepping and getting ready for the season. I also have a video I just put a video out on YouTube at Gil Rocket. That's my YouTube channel, Gil Rocket, GILROCKIT, and I talk about preparing for the lobster season, getting ready, going through batteries, checking hoop nets. I do the whole deal. Or go to my website at rocketfishing.com. That's ROCKIT fishing.com, and it'll link you to those videos as well. But moving on.
I highly recommend you do that. Hey, I just want to remind you all out there to hang on the comments. There's a lot of comments going up. Maybe we'll go back and read them, or we might just move ahead. Depends on how many comments and questions we get. But hang in there for a little bit, Cue Ball, and all you guys. Steve Bermudez, he's got a horn now on his ear, so he's good. He's asking questions, so obviously he can hear you. And so just hang on. We'll do that. Don't forget, morning briefing tomorrow morning and every morning as I'll get you in touch with all the very latest. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and catch us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Go ahead, Gilbert.
Yeah, so I want to kind of move on to, just for the sake of time to get to your questions, that, safety is the most important thing. Usually right off the bat, we're hitting safety as far as headlamps, gloves, foul weather gear, first aid kits, all that kind of stuff. I always bring when I'm on a boat, hot water with me. If people are saying, why do you want to bring hot water? Just in case you get stung by a sculpin. The problem with lobster hooping is everybody gets so excited, they don't check their hoop net prior to putting it on the boat or on their kayak, and they're always reaching in to grab a lobster, but they don't realize that there's something underneath that lobster that will hurt them. And I tell stories of people that have been on kayaks that have been bitten by eels between the legs, have been stung by sculpin, their hands blow up. And so it's always good to have a safety measure intact.
What do you mean between the legs? Like a guy got bit on his...
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
My God.
Well, you got to think you're on a
That's
kayak.
gotta hurt.
So you got to think, Phil, you're on a kayak. You put the lobster hoop here. The eel's in there. He's going to squirm through, and he's not happy.
Oh, my God.
So,
ouch.
So I always tell people, before you put your hoop net on, inspect it, right? Before you put it on, make sure everything's cool. The expectation, they're excited. They want to put it on. Make sure it's in there.
I got a new product, man. You got to get a jock strap with a cup. It says Promar on it. You sell that to kayakers. Yes. They protect the family jewels that way, right? Yes. New business, Steve. Let's do it. Promar will have that out next week.
Man, Ben's going to be excited about that
one.
So safety is key. Always have a game plan. Know the weather, what the weather's going to be like. Know the wind, and always go out with a friend if you're in a kayak, and let a loved one know where you're going, and let them know what time you're going to be home. If you tell your loved one you're going to be going hooping from 5 to 8, and midnight rolls around and you're not answering your cell phone, they need to know, hey, this is where he said he was going, and make sure you wear your life jacket at all times, especially if you're hooping by yourself. I don't care what it is. Yeah,
right?
Super important. People think that they're great. I could tell you stories about me thinking I was the greatest guy in the world, and flipped over my kayak and got back on. But thank God I had a life jacket on.
Yeah.
I got a life jacket on. But don't ever test the elements. Always make sure. I always tell people always rig to flip and dress to swim. So same thing on a boat.
Good advice.
So just make sure, and whoever's driving the boat, make sure you're not drinking too much, and you're not doing stuff because you're in charge of everybody and their safety on that boat. And so that's, I know people like to go lobster hooping and party it up, but you got to make sure you have everybody safe on the boat. So when over rigging, most important question to you. You want to hit anything on the rigging, Steve, as far as I know we have headlamps, we have light sticks. This is one of the light sticks that we have. We also have a breakable light stick.
Traditional chemical.
Yeah,
light
and I always tell folks to bring those light sticks with you as a backup. The batteries go out in this thing. They get wet. Nothing's perfect. People always hand me light sticks like, hey, this thing doesn't work. And they do come with an extra set of batteries. And so the batteries do need to be changed. Just because you buy a light stick doesn't mean it's going to work for 10 years. You do have to put batteries in it. And also what I do is after you're done hooping is you have to take it apart and dry it out. Just like this. If you don't, what's going to happen is the moisture is going to get stuck in there, and the light's going to go bad. It's going to corrode. As you all know, salt water does wonderful things to our gear, and this is no exception. So I like to break everything down, and I like to cycle everything. I like to make sure even if it's dim. So I have 2 boxes. I have one box of they kind of work, they don't work, and one box that they absolutely 100% work. And I make sure to change the batteries in these because you don't want to get stuck out there because this is a huge safety part of marking your float and letting boaters know that your float is right there so don't drive over it. So,
hey, Gil and Steve, what's the most unusual thing you've caught beside the bycatch in a lobster hoop net? Have you caught anything really crazy or?
I've gotten a horn shark. I think that was.
Horn sharks are pretty weird.
I get eels, sculpin,
all kinds
octopus.
Of weird. Yeah.
You know, I don't like dealing with that stuff, man. It just, especially the eels. I've had some big eels.
Morays or?
Sure. Yeah. That's what they are. I don't even want to know what they are, man. I just don't even want to deal with them. Like they're wicked. I mean, curled up. They're curled up.
Yeah, right.
When they're curled up in a net, they're a big one.
So in regards to rigging, like Gil was saying, Promar offers every aspect of the rigging. If you guys go to any local tackle store, they all pretty much carry everything in regards to Promar lobster hooping, all the seal-proof bait cages, the floats, the ropes, the light sticks, the hoop nets, everything. Or you can, visit us on promarahi.com and everything's available on there too. If you can't make it out to a tackle store.
Hey, quick question for you guys: how good is it hoop netting from a pier? Can you actually do well doing that?
I
would think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally, if I was gonna do it, I would use the Navionics app. That's like, well, I use that regardless. I'm always using that. Anytime I'm on my boat, I'm using the Navionics app. But the cool thing about the Navionics app, and we
have a video on it.
Yeah, exactly. You can go to specific areas. Like if I'm going to fish Veterans Pier in Long Beach, this is a well-known area for hooping off of a pier. It's a good pier to fish off of. At the end of that pier, there's a wreckage from the previous pier that was there from years and years ago that got torn down from a hurricane that came through. And so there's a lot of rock piles down there and pilings, debris that got left. That's perfect structure for lobster. So if you plan on going hooping from a pier, I will say use the app, look at the piers in your area, try to find them on that app, and see what it looks like around those piers. If you see a pier, like for example Veterans Pier, where there's tons of structure on the end of that pier, that's lobster real estate. That's lobster territory.
Yeah, right.
So that's going to perform a lot better than, let's say, Cabrillo Pier, where it's all sand on the bottom. There's a jetty right next to it, but right under the pier, it's all just sandy. So you're not gonna. The chances of you getting lobster there versus Veterans, Veterans is probably gonna be better. So
makes sense.
Use that Navionics app if you're gonna be fishing off of pier to find the best, even to find the best location at that pier, because the Veterans Pier has a left wing and a right wing at the end of it. I think usually the right wing is where people like to prefer to hoop net. So that app will help you dial in the area that you want to hoop net.
One more thing: can you walk out on a jetty and fish, or is that difficult?
You can, technically you can, but
is it viable? I mean, can you catch?
No, because what happens is
you get all screwed up.
You throw the hoop net out, and when you're pulling it, you're gonna pull it up against the rocks. The hoop net's gonna get stuck. All your lobsters are gonna get out, and then it's a waste of time.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
So moving on, I think what we kind of move into actually where to hoop net. I think that's probably the number one question that people would want to have. Like, where do I go?
wants to know what that app is one more time.
So it's the Navionics. So Navionics. Navionics.
It's like $20 a year,
Yeah, it's
something
like
like that.
15 to $20 a year. It's totally
Best
worth
app
it.
you ever have in your life.
Yeah, it works on your phone, on your iPad. It's a game changer for sure.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. So, talking about structure, where to go, where to hoop, going for the first time, you have no idea where to go, and apps like the Navionics app are great because you can actually look for structure. I always like to tell folks in my seminars that lobsters are a lot like bass. They need food, structure, and current. Those are the things they need. If you go out there, usually what I tell the calico bass fishermen and the sand bass fishermen is during lobster season, start marking these commercial guys as traps because that's where the bass are going to be. So I like guiding out there bass because I don't even have to use my fish finder, and I can have a client on the water, and you can go buy a lobster float and you just fish around the float and you're catching bass. So wherever the bass are going to be is where the lobsters are going to be. And it's super important to find that structure. Now, a lot of guys get a little too close to the break wall. And when you start, that's when you catch all those creepy crawler things. So make sure you're a safe distance away from the break wall, because the closer you get to that break wall, the more you're going to catch the eels, all the sculpin, all the stuff that you don't want to catch. Now, a lot of the free divers go there because they can actually pick out the lobsters, and the lobsters are actually sometimes hanging out on the rocks, like literally hanging on the rocks. You get a flashlight sometimes and see them. But when you're soaking a net, you're just going to get a lot of other stuff as well.
So when you're soaking the net, specifically near a jetty, where do you put it? Because a lot of guys, the way the jetties are, they taper out.
Yes.
Right. So you could be 10 feet from where you see the rocks coming out of the water.
Yep.
And you're over rocks, right? Right below your boat, that jetty is still tapering down.
Yeah.
So if you throw your hoop net out there, it's going to be in the rocks. You're probably going to get stuck, and you're not going to catch much.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend as far as where they place that hoop
So
net?
we've done some videos on this. I know I was on Ryan's boat with Slay Day. We did a video on where to place the net as well. And so what I like to do is when I'm looking at a fish finder and I see valleys, so a dip, right? A dip in the geographical sense of the ocean. I like to find dips, okay? I like to believe, and so far in my head I believe, that lobsters are going to crawl down. They don't usually crawl up; they'll crawl down.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it does.
So for instance, if this is the high point here, and there's a valley here, and you're going to want to drop your net right in here. You're going to want to drop it in the valley, right? And that's where they're going to feed. Usually on your fish finder, when I tell people what kind of fish finder, a color fish finder, because you're going to want to meter the hard bottom. So you're going to want to make sure you have rocks of hard structure and then a valley.
In our Lobster 101 video that we did on my boat, there's a good section on there where we actually show the fish finder, and Gil is pointing
that's great.
at the structure. He's basically what he's describing now.
That's great.
And he's showing exactly where you would want to drop your hoop.
Yeah. And with good navionics and good, fish finder capabilities, you can actually see on Steve's boat, we can actually physically see our net fall and drop. And we know we have a good set.
Yeah.
That's what we call a good set. And so, and we know if we pull that net later and there's no lobster in it, there's really nothing we can do because we placed that net in the perfect valley. So we can move on from that spot.
Yeah.
If we were to place our net in that valley and get 6 or 7 lobsters, well, what we're going to do is we're going to manage our rope systems better. And so that's why we have the floats numbered 1 through 5. So I can start pulling nets. Hey, number 5 didn't get lobster, number 2 didn't get lobster, but number 1 got lobster. Okay. Well, all the lobster are at a number 1 buoy. So let's make a documentation about the lobsters going number 1 buoy. So lobster fishing is a lot about documenting. Okay. It's about documenting, especially if you have 10 hoop nets out. Each of these hoop nets is an address. Each of these hoop nets is a purpose, okay? So what they're doing that particular time matters. So you may only have 1 hoop net throughout the whole night. It could be number 8 that's getting all the bugs. So what you're going to do is you're going to take 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 9, 10. You're going to put them around number 8, okay? And that's how you're going to manage your ropes, and that's how you're going to kind of get to the structure to catch these lobsters, because you're going to want to, people tell me all the time, like, well, how should I deploy my nets? Should I put them 10 yards apiece? Should I put them a mile apiece? For me, it's all about structure. Sometimes if the season's right for me and I know there's a honey hole, I'll place 5 nets in a big circle like a 50 by 50 circle, and I'm in the middle waiting, and I'm just pulling up these nets because I'm honing in the lobster where they're going.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So it's a game. It's basically you're gonna have to try to figure out where these lobster are, but without a number system and without treating each buoy as an actual, address.
Yeah.
You're not going to get those lobster because you're basically
it's just confusing.
Yeah,
you lose track of which
Yeah,
one,
right.
where the lobster were, right?
Yeah. And so when we're on Steve's boat or any boat, like, hey, number 5 buoy is just killing it. Number 5 buoy is the star tonight. That's where the lobster are.
Okay.
So you kind of have to like do your management through the night and kind of start saying, man, these are the lobster here, there's lobster here. Let's start moving our ropes. But in general, structure. The better the structure, they're not going to be in the sand. They're going to be in the rocks. They're nocturnal. They get preyed upon just like we prey on them. Other things prey upon them. And so the moon is going to have a big deal in that, which we can talk about moon phases and tides. We talk about in our videos all day long. So we can, I don't typically go out in a full moon, but here in Long Beach, it does great in a full moon because there's lights everywhere. Mm-hmm. And these lobsters are used to the lights, okay? If you're going to go out and fish, Catalina or Dana Point or Newport or Pedro up higher or anywhere up there, Marina Del Rey, I'm sorry, not Pedro, Marina Del Rey, where it's dark and there's a bright moon, well, they're going to be hidden away for the night. So, and I've tried to prove that method wrong for many years and it's never done me good.
That's interesting.
But there is a moon rise and a moon set. So you got to know how to read the moon. Right. So the moon sets at a certain time.
That's when you want to be fishing.
So if your moon set is at 7 and your sunset is at 6:30, well, you're fishing a full moon. But if your moon set is at 11:30 or midnight, well, you have all the way to midnight to hoop. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So a full moon isn't bad. You just need to know how to read it. It's just like tide. Like you need to be able to read tide because the lobsters need that movement. The bigger movement of water is going to get them crawling better.
Yes.
So you want to go, the tide is a factor and the moon phase is a factor as well. And the science of it is just you getting in front of a computer and just learning it.
Yeah. And just going back to the whole structure thing, when you're in areas, locally it's hard. Usually you don't have a whole lot of options or a lot of space when you're fishing certain areas, but if you happen to go to Catalina on off night, what I mean by off night is where you're almost by yourself out there and you have a big area of structure. What I personally like to do on my first set, I spread my stuff out. I'll take, if I know nobody's out there with me, if I'm by myself or if there's one other boat out there, I spread my stuff out. That way I can figure out where these lobster are. Yeah. I don't just focus on one spot.
That's very good. Yeah, I like that.
And like I said, sometimes you can't do that because there's a lot of people, but when you can, take advantage of it. Put a couple hundred yards between each of your hoop nets.
Yeah.
And that way, you
find out where the mother lode
exactly.
is.
You can find out. You can cover more area and figure out where these bugs are crawling.
Do you guys ever put nets out with a certain bait and others with another bait to see what's working, or no? Is that
the only time I do that is when I want to try something.
Yeah, same here. I'm
other than that, I'm pretty.
Yeah, you're going with a fresh bait. You know it works.
Yeah, to be honest, whatever's easier. Going to the bait barge and picking up a couple scoops of sardines is the easiest.
Right.
For me, so that's what I do.
True or false that lobster crawl really good after a storm? Have you seen that? I've heard of that.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get rainy, windy weather.
They're the bugs. They're the roaches. They're going to be any type of organics in the water, anything that stirs it up. They're going to be eating and they're going to be active. Storms are great. Sometimes not greatest for fishing,
right?
But they're greatest for lobster hooping. And you want the water to be stirred up, and you want there to be you want the water to be active.
Yes.
And I just think for me, it's like Steve hit on scent and getting that oil out. And so for me, I just want to share this with you folks at home. Is that what I do too? Is in preparation, whether we're buying fresh, I always do what's called meal prepping. And I have them for like emergency backup. And I usually put like mackerel, sardines in here. And so our seal bait cage holds 2 in a 1-gallon Ziploc bag. So which helps to manage yourself on a boat better. Instead of getting goo all over your ice chest, you can put 2 of these in your ice chest. You can freeze them as well. And usually what I do is I've been with Bite On for a few years now with Tony. Puts a great product out. This bite on scent has really changed the way that I fish, as far as putting that extra scent out in the water and making that bait extra oily. And for me, I can spray it. I can spray the bait, whether I'm like, I could do, when I'm bringing bait out there, I can I can spray some of this or just dump it in a Ziploc bag with almost like a carne asada kind of marinade, right? And I can pack that inside a sealed bait cage, or we have our cloths. And what I like about the cloths is some guys don't, say you're on a kayak and you don't want to take a lot of bait cages. Say you only want to take you're doing 5 hoop nets. You want to take maybe two extra bait cages. What the cloths are great for is they can recharge your bait in a second. So instead of like chopping up, you can chop up some. You can even throw. I've thrown ghosted bait. When we call ghosted bait is the bait is like lost its scent and it's almost white.
It's like waterlogged.
Yeah, it's waterlogged. You can actually throw one of these cloths in there, and that's what that's going to do is going to attract the lobster back to it, and they're just going to eat the bait again. But I like to put some of the bite on scent in all my stuff. It's been a game changer for me, and you can pick this up at Turner's, Amazon. So it's a great product to get.
All right, hey Omar, and you guys hang on. When the seminar's over, we're going to answer all your questions, but we don't want to break up the flow here. So
Yeah.
Hang on. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. Lots of people watching. Hit that like button, everybody. And hey, lots of folks. You guys are getting awesome remarks and everything else. So great job. Go ahead, Gil.
Yeah. So we want to go over soak times, and we kind of talked about in the beginning of the seminar is don't get caught up in the game of putting too many hoop nets out. We want to stick around at 25 minutes to even 40-minute soak time. If it's a slow crawl, there's 2 crawls. There's the first crawl where they crawl out, and then there's the second crawl where they crawl back. Okay, the second crawl is going to be usually really later in the day. The first crawl is going to be right when the sun goes down, when the tide's at its best. And so you want to take advantage of that time when the sun goes down and make sure that you're prepared. But you want to make sure that you're cycling through those nets every 25 minutes to 30 minutes and no more soak times that. You're not allowed to soak your hoop net no more than 2 hours. At that point, the hoop net becomes abandoned, and the rules state that it can be taken. Okay, now people say game wardens, harbor patrol.
Official,
Yeah,
you can't just pick up a hoop net technically.
yeah. And I told them in the regs before, the game wardens, like, you need to kind of write that out a little better because it says taken. I don't know if they changed that yet.
I think they might have changed it because last year when I looked at it, it says an official person.
Okay.
Someone official.
Yeah, for a while it was just like it can be taken. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's go out there when the tide goes back down and go get some hoop nets. So, and it's important too that if that does happen, guys, to have your Go IDs, even your phone number. I've lost some nets. No one has ever called me back for a lost net. So hopefully someday somebody will call me back for a lost net. But just in case there is someone out there who wants to be honest, have your phone number on there, your Go ID that lets them know that is your net. And then the soak times. And then moving on, just talking about retrieving your hoop nets and approaching your float safely. You know, if you're on a boat, boat hook, not a gaff. You don't want to take someone's eye out. You know,
you guys get excited. Somebody pulls that gaff too hard when the guy's still pulling. You know, it's
dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Make sure, to have all eyes on the float. You know, don't lose it.
And in regards to soak times, I want to go into detail about a little bit about this because this
two free gift cards tonight, everybody. Stay tuned for that. Go ahead, Steve.
This is I feel like this is one of the topics that people lose their success rate may fall due to soak time. So one thing to consider is when you're in an area where there's a heavy current or something that the current's moving pretty quickly, your soak time tends to get shorter. For me, at least.
Yes, no, it does.
So
definitely.
That current is carrying that scent trail a lot faster, so it's able to move it out, and that's why having more bait that's when it's more important, because the more bait you have in there, the shorter soak time you need, because you're releasing more oil, more scent trail. That current's moving it faster into the rocks or into wherever that lobster is, and you can. I've literally the shortest soak time that I have is like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, 10 minutes, and I've had 10 lobsters, eagles at the island in my hoop net, and that's because there was a good current. I had tons of bait, and I was butted up right against that structure area. So I was pretty confident that I didn't need to have a 30-minute soak time, 40-minute soak time, because I knew it was prime real estate area. I had plenty of bait. I knew my scent trail was going to be strong. And I knew that current was going to push that scent trail right into those crevices where those lobsters are hiding. It was just going to pull them out right into the hoop net.
Yeah.
So all those things you want to consider when there's not so much current, or if you're in an area where you're fishing with a ton of people. That's when I would let my stuff soak a little bit longer, because now you're competing with a bunch of people. And if they're pulling their stuff up, well, what happens is if your hoop net is here and somebody else's hoop net is here and they're pulling theirs up and down, well, those lobster are coming here and they might be right here just about ready to get in their hoop net, but then they pull it up and they're like, okay, well, now I still smell this, guys. Let me go over here.
Yeah.
You know, so that might be a reason why you would want to have a longer soak time, is if you're competing with a bunch of people. But the critical thing is having tons of bait in your hoop net. That's what's going to draw to your hoop net. So that's a little bit.
And I was speaking to that too. I've misplaced nets where I'm like, I don't like that placement. So I drop it, go in a circle on my kayak, pick it up, there's a lobster in it. That quick. It's like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, they're like hound dogs, right?
Yeah.
They're just gonna get in there. They want to eat. They're scavengers. So, but back on topic as far as pulling these nets is making sure you're not using your boat hook. Making sure, as we talked in the seminar earlier, you're pulling upright. You're not tipping your net. That you have all eyes on what's going on, and you know what numbers you're pulling. That you make sure that you don't pull number 1 3 times in a row. Like, hey, man, there's no lobster here. Well, we pulled it 3 times in 5 minutes. Like, so making sure you have the night organized to where, you know, like as Steve said, I like that too. I like to stretch out. And sometimes you can do that later on in the season. You know, my good friend Jim Salazar, he's the guy, right? He's like the mentor for me for all this. And he use as much ground as you can, you know, and then kind of narrow down to where you gotta go.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
2 things I'm taking away from this is the bait, having enough bait, and also covering, just like any other kind of fishing. Yeah, right.
Yeah. And work what you got. I mean, if you only have 50 yards, then you can put them different ways. You don't have to go. People always think they can go along the jetty. You know, you can go. And I had a guide last year, and he drifted off to, I don't know. He was out in the middle of the ocean, it seemed like. And he dropped a net out there, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to let him do what he wants to do. And I kind of giggled at him, and then he pulled it up, and he had 3 legal lobsters.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, you taught me something,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
I thought you were doing something dumb, you know. And so he was out there catching lobsters and just, you know, smoking his cigarettes, having a good time, and got lobsters. So, but yeah.
Cryptocurrency and everybody, hang on to the questions, please. We want to finish up the seminar, keep the flow going, and then we are more than happy to answer all your questions in just a little bit. Hit that like button. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Go ahead.
Yeah, and
we only have a few more topics to cover, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Yeah, I think we kind of wrap it up. I mean, kind of hit on everything. I think we're going to maybe answer some of the questions, the seminar within the questions.
Yeah, you want to do that?
But I want to just say, to end it, like not to end what we're the whole seminar, but just before we get into the questions, is that the most important thing, guys, is to have a lobster gauge on you. And I always tell folks to put them around your neck on a lanyard, because an organization, when a game warden is going to come on your boat, and if you have everything organized, I really talk about this in detail at my seminars and in our one-on-one videos, is to have organization. If a game warden is going to come on your boat, you will get boarded sooner or later, or he's going to get you at the dock. If you have like cans and trash and pliers, and it's just your boat is just a yard sale, he's going to board you. He's going to look through all your stuff. He just knows, and I've talked to the game wardens. They know if you're organized. When I was running my boat and Steve's boat, we come in just top notch. The nets are stacked in the front. The buoys are organized. The lobsters are in one hoop net. He comes on the boat. He's not even to board us. He hands us our cards because there's no reason for us to show him that we're not being irresponsible. And so you want to make sure that your boat's clean when you come in, or your trash is together, that everything's all put away. Because if you come in and your boat looks like you had a party for 3 days, he's going to board you.
Yeah.
And he's going to go through your stuff. Also, when you have that lobster and you measure that lobster, and that lobster is short, and you know it's short, and you're thinking it's like a sand bass, and you're trying to stretch it, they ain't going to stretch. Okay? The sooner you keep that lobster in your hand, the more you're going to convince yourself that it's legal. So what I tell people is, as soon as you know that it's not legal, throw it away.
Yeah, it's not worth it, right?
It's not worth it. It's not worth it because people want lobster so bad. I'm telling you, it happens every time. I convinced myself that it was legal. And so get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
And if you're on a kayak.
Because what's the fine like? It's substantial.
Well, it
Isn't it?
depends.
It depends
Yeah.
on the judge.
So yeah, it depends on what
Oh.
mood the judge is in. I mean, for a first-time offender, I've literally heard horror stories to where they took the guy's boat, they took the guy's fishing gear. He can't fish for the next 10 years.
For
And-
one short lobster.
And then
Wow.
there's the other side of it where first-time offender, he or offended multiple things. As far as fish, he's caught short fish before, he was over limit before, and then he caught a short or over on lobster, and he just got a slap on the wrist.
So it depends upon whether the judge had a fight with his wife the night before or whatever.
It can, literally. It just
Wow.
depends. There's no real, there's no minimum. I don't know how to explain it, but there's not one set repercussion for having a short lobster.
It's just not a good thing to get in that hole.
Right. It's not worth it.
Just get rid of it.
And
Just
then,
get rid of it.
not only that, but if you get caught anywhere in this area, or if you're fishing Catalina, you have to go to Catalina to see the judge.
Oh, right. I've heard that.
The judge is at Catalina, and so you have to take the day off work, go to Catalina, pay the ferry, go or take your boat out there, see the judge. Who knows what he's gonna hit you with, and then come back. It's just a pain in the butt.
It sounds like the Fish and Wildlife are more determined to stop this kind of stuff than they do on fishing.
If you're
Sounds
gonna
like
see
they're more
him,
on the lobster, right?
if you're gonna see him anywhere, you're gonna see him on a lobster.
So behave, right?
Well, you take into consideration lobster, $48 a pound.
Yeah.
Almost $50 a pound.
Yeah.
Right, and the average size on illegal, I think, is 3-4 pounds.
Wow.
So there's big money, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of shady stuff going
sure,
on, and that's
sure.
what they want to prevent from happening. There's guys
I'm all for it.
selling, selling stuff that they shouldn't be selling. So yeah, we're all for it. It's protecting our resource.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go to some questions, man.
All right, I'll just start. How about we'll just start here, and then if you've asked the question previously, if you don't mind, ask it again. That would be good. Does my 13-year-old need a Go ID and report card? Cryptocurrency wants to know.
Yes.
Everybody, right?
Yes.
So
Okay.
the Go ID, they need a lobster report card. She won't need a lobster fishing license. She will need a lobster report card, and on that lobster report card, there will be a Go ID.
Q-Ball says he's had some really great luck just fishing small little pieces of structure.
Yeah.
You guys found that to be the case?
Yeah. So
Yep.
I personally have a couple of honey holes where I know, like, if I'm having a tough night, I'll hit them every once in a while and pick up maybe 1 or 2 legals. It's not big rock structures. It's maybe a little rock pile inside the harbor or somewhere around the jetties, but it's not a common spot, and I know that I can pick up 1 or 2 there. So it's good to have those in your pocket for those tough nights.
Yeah, Q-Ball says, man, they will toss your boat. They are really serious about this kind of stuff. They're at the ramp. So, everybody needs to behave, and it's good for the resource. Anyway, let's see. Balboa Fish Club, CCA. Do those proceeds go to 30/30 regulations? I'm not sure I know what the 30/30 is.
Yeah.
But,
What is a 30/30?
it's an attempt on
To try to create more closure.
yeah, more
Oh,
closure.
yeah. And that's another thing that we talked about. You got to make sure when we're hooping, we need to talk.
Stay in there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Especially
Hang on those questions.
Yeah.
everybody.
Especially at Catalina, there's different types of closures.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but so at Catalina, there's closures obviously where you can't do anything. You can't fish. You can't fish for fish, and you can't do lobsters. However, there are some closures where you're able to fish with like in that area, but it has to be a certain amount of distance from the shore. So just be aware of the different closures that there are and the areas that you're fishing. If you want to just avoid any chances of getting ticketed or having something having any type of fines, just avoid the closures areas. Make sure you know
Stay
where they're
far
at.
away. I mean, yeah.
I think there's apps now that you can download on your phone and they show you where the closures are. I know Navionics shows you where the closures are, so just be aware of where the closure starts.
And don't get too close, right?
Exactly.
Don't try to be cute.
Don't
exactly.
play with it. Yeah, it's not worth it.
Great info, says WA. Mark DeFrancis says, I'm sure Phil has been searched before. What a mess. Yes, what a mess. Blue Skies, what's a good pair of gloves, boys?
So my favorite gloves are the Promar latex grip gloves, and they're just basically the polyester gloves that has a rubber coating on it so that you can grip the lobster or the fish. Some guys like to use our Pro Grip insulated gloves because it does get cold out there, and those insulated gloves have a fleece lining inside, so it'll keep your hands nice and warm. So those are the two best ones, and the fleece insulated ones are actually pretty thick. So those lobsters, they have some sharp points on the tail section.
Yeah.
So if you're not wearing any gloves, you could
get nailed, right?
You can get some damage on your hands. So definitely want to wear some gloves when you're out there lobster hooping.
We should mention, you guys, that there's some really great sport boat operations that will take you, right? Hoop netting also.
Up and down the coast, there's a few different landings that offer some sport boat lobster charters. Some of them are really cool because they offer combo trips. So you leave the dock at like noon, and then you can actually rockfish for the first part of the day.
I love it.
And then set some hoops, and then at night, you pull those hoops and get some lobster. So you go home with rockfish and lobster.
That's great. I think Gale Force and Triton does that.
Yeah, Gale Force, Triton. Who else? There's a couple out of Long Beach as well. But yeah,
Dana Point. Dana Moore Sport Fishing does a lot of that now.
Contact your local landings and see what they offer.
Yeah. Cue ball. I wouldn't grab a bug without a glove. Gnarly, strong, and sharp-ass tails. Yeah, he's right? No question about that. Maybe, Danielle, can we go back to some previous questions? Let's go back, and then we'll see if we can catch up with a few guys that asked some questions. Let's see. Where do you go? Where do you get the Go ID?
So the Go ID is on your
Thank you.
fishing license. You can, when you buy your fishing license, if you pull that tag out, or it looks like a receipt, right? Yeah. Like a store receipt. At the very top, you're going to see where it says Go ID. That Go ID is like your serial. It's like your social security number. It's unique to you. So, and then you're going to keep that Go ID for the rest of your life.
Yes, for hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's for everything. Yeah. It's your ID for doing any type of upland game, big game, fishing. So that's going to be your Go ID forever.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's what you're going to use on your floats.
I think you guys addressed this, but Omar's asking, how many hoops can you comfortably take on a kayak?
It all depends on the advance of how I've been doing it for many years. Of course, I'm perfectly capable of doing 5. I take guys on guides that can barely handle 2, and 2's a lot. And so comfortably, I'm on a Pro Angler a 12. I can do 5, no problem. Some guys are on Pro Angler 14s, depending on the type of kayak you have. It all depends on the how advanced you are. You don't want to weigh yourself down. I do see people flip over a lot hooping. And so I would definitely not test the waters. I would try to bring a couple out at a time. And then if you feel you can bring more, I would bring more. But I do 5 myself. But like I said, I've been doing it a very, very long time. But I take a lot of clients out over the years. And if you're green, sometimes they can barely do 1 or 2.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 or 3 seems like you're pushing, right?
Yeah, 2 or 3. 3 is the max, I would say. Even some of the advanced guys are even taking 5. But yeah, I would keep it. I would start off small and then move up from there.
Omar says, other than structure, are there other indicators on where your fish finder that will help you in success in locating lobster? How much slack do you leave relative to the tides? What's max depth that you hoop for lobster?
So to address the first part, the other than structure, myself and Gil, we both love calico bass fishing, saltwater bass fishing. So during the off season of lobster, I'm fishing the wall, I'm fishing wrecks, I'm fishing rock piles, I'm fishing just anything I can find anything I can find bass on.
Yeah.
So I'm basically doing my homework for lobster season. So basically, if I find a good bass spot that's a little outside of the harbor or just in an area,
you're marking it.
Exactly, and I'm coming back to it during lobster season. I'm dropping a hoop net on it.
And have you had success?
Oh yeah,
I'm sure.
I mentioned earlier I have a couple of honey holes that I know I can pick up 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That's how I found those honey holes. Fishing for bass during the off season, coming back to them, trying them out, and finding that they do hold lobster. So that's, for me, that's kind of the best way to do my research when I can't actually hoop them. I'll just go bass fishing. And if I can find good bass spots, then typically they end up being decent lobster spots. Do you have anything to add to that, Gil?
No, I think
what's the depth? How deep?
I mean, you can go as Catalina Island. You can fish 200 feet. 150 feet. 100 feet.
The one side of the spectrum is like 10 feet. You can catch lobster in 10.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure, how often do you see videos on Instagram of guys at their docks looking at the rock piles there, and they see lobster?
Yeah, right.
And that's like 5 feet of water, 10 feet of water. And then you go to the other side of the spectrum where guys are hooping Catalina in 200 feet of water.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard of much guys fishing deeper than that and having a whole lot of success. But from 10 feet to 200 feet and everywhere in between is pretty much, as long as you can find what we talked about earlier, structure, current, you can have a pretty good chance of finding.
Is the deeper water better?
It depends.
It's
Yeah, it depends,
hold.
yes.
It's a time of year type of thing too.
Okay.
So early on in the season, you can typically find them a little bit shallower.
Okay.
Because they're comfortable. They haven't been been fished for. They haven't been pressured.
Yeah.
So they're in shallower water. I know that when they're molting, they're spawning or molting, they move into deeper water because there's less predators for them in that area, and it's harder for things to see them because there's less light. They feel more protected in deeper water when they're vulnerable like that. And then towards the end of the season, I'm fishing in shallow again. So that's kind of how I do my fishing throughout the season. But it just depends. I hear guys doing great in shallow water, and at the same time I hear guys doing great in deeper water.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends. Certain guys know which areas to hit, and certain guys know they can fish shallow and they can fish deep at the same time and still have successful trips.
Perfect. Daniel, can we go down to the bottom again, see if we have any new questions? Steve, have we decided how we're, here we go. It looks like we do. Diego Carvajal. I grabbed him without gloves. I like Diego. You see something else up there that I missed?
Yeah, it says talk pregnant lobsters.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Do you talk to pregnant lobsters, Steve?
I personally don't keep pregnant lobsters just because.
Yes, same here.
I mean, I'm a calico fisherman. I don't keep calico bass.
Yeah.
They're slow to grow, so I let them go. I feel kind of the same way with lobster that are pregnant. It's already tough for us to have good days out on the water.
Why don't you describe how you know whether a lobster is pregnant or not?
So when you pick up that lobster and you turn it upside down and you see the tail, and usually they have lots of egg sacs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all over the tail.
Yeah.
That's obviously a pregnant lobster.
So if you get a 7-pound pregnant lobster, are you tossing it back? Be honest.
Yeah.
It's a picture moment.
It's
a picture moment.
Real conservation.
Yeah.
I'm throwing it in my hot water.
And I don't think I get mad at anybody that keeps them.
It's everybody's right.
They're right. It's totally your right if you want to keep it.
Yeah.
It's just a personal thing.
I think it's a good thing.
I don't need it. I mean, we're gonna get lobster anyway. We got a whole season to get more lobster. So.
By the way, when does lobster season end?
October.
No, March.
March. Sorry, March.
So it's like the first Wednesday or the first something. It changes every year because it's a weird rule. It's like the first Wednesday of March or the third Wednesday of March. So the date actually changes every year.
Yeah, it's a long season. We have till March.
Yeah, right. It's a long season, so I don't ever feel like I have to.
Yeah, I need to. Because you got another trip coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, perfect. Cue Ball says he's pulled those things without using gloves, and his hands end up like hamburger. That's for sure. Balboa Fish Group, is there a size that is too big to take? And should we throw back the 7+ pounders? So there's no slot limit, right? Where you throw back bigger ones.
Do you want to?
It's one of those things that it's to each his own, right?
Yeah.
It's the thing when you get a prize.
Let's just talk about you. What would you do? Do you throw big ones back?
I haven't.
Or does Danielle love to eat lobster so much he wouldn't dare?
I've thrown one big one back before, but usually I'll take the big ones.
Yeah.
But to me, like it all depends on how the night's going, and how the area is. I mean, if you go to Catalina, it seems like every lobster there is big, But you're hooping like Newport or somewhere, and it's just like. You gotta if you're a conservationist, and when I go trout fishing at Crawley, I'll throw with it, the some of the brookies and stuff. It's like they're just too pretty to keep. But I don't want to like label people like you can't do this because there's guys all over social media that like wave their finger at people. But you buy a fishing license, and you can take, and as long as you're within the rules, you can take, but there's also the conservation thing. So yes, I will take some, but then I will leave some as well. So you gotta know when to give and take.
Perfect. Man, it's a short season. Garlic and butter. LOL. I think he's a guy that's eating them too. Do we want to give away a free card? What are these cards anyway? $500 gift cards.
So they're $25 gift cards. So you can pick up a few seal-proof bait cages, some lobster gauges, some light sticks on the Pro Marinahi website.
You have questions about the sex life of the spiny lobster tonight, or how are we going to do this? You want to ask a question about the seminars to see if people were paying attention?
Hey, it's your show. We do it.
Oh no, but you're giving away the gift card. Let's come up with something here before somebody else asks a question. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Question.
So what's one of the most critical things that we repeated over and over again that you can do? You can have a lot of it to help your chances. First one wins. What am I talking about?
Yeah, what is Steve talking about? What is one of the most critical things that you can do to catch more langostas? Extra bait!
Yeah,
Halibut Man wins.
Right,
I know Halibut Man. Mitchell. Lots of bait. Oh my God, look at all these poor guys that are coming in late. Oh my God.
Man, you gotta,
Travis, you were there too.
We'll have another one so that, in a little bit.
I'm going to demand Steve gives out 20 of those cards tonight, not just 2.
Halibut Man, if you can give me your email, I'll reach out to him.
Mitchell, you have my phone number, I think, so send me a text and then I'll get you on his email, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Or can he put his email up there right now? Or no,
he's going to get everybody emailing him.
I know, exactly. Yeah, hold on. We'll figure it out, Mitchell. Or you can go through Dan.
They can DM you, can't they?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, DM me. That'll be good too. Skipjack from your tuna trip, guys. Kubal says that's really good bait.
Oh, yeah.
That's one thing we didn't touch on. So any game fish, skipjack, I think anything that has a limit, you got to be careful about using that. Because if you have, let's say, bonita or tuna, and you're using that for bait, you're cutting it up and putting it in there. Fish and Game, they board you and they see that you have all these tuna carcasses on. Remember, there's still a limit on that. Even if it's from a trip 2 weeks ago and you got yours and your buddies.
It's a possession thing, right? Yeah.
You technically have 10 tuna on your boat and you're by yourself or whatever. You have 15, 20, and you're only allowed to have 10 or 5 of whatever game fish. That's a ticket. It doesn't matter if the carcass is old. You can tell it's a week old or 2 weeks old or whatever. If depending on who you have as a game warden, if they want to write you up, they can. So be cautious of using game fish for bait for lobster hooping. Keep that in mind.
Who was it? Balboa Fish Group says, good point, Steve. Steve, you got an accolade tonight from one of the listeners. That's great. Yeah. Hayby says, sorry, tuning in late. Maybe you guys could just go over the jetties and piers one more time again. Steve, you made a point about having navionics, how important that is, and how difficult it is to fish jetties, at least if you're on the jetty. If you're on a boat, it's a different thing, or a kayak.
I definitely wouldn't go lobster hooping if I was fishing from the jetty. However, the jetty is one of the best places to fish off of a boat or a kayak for lobsters because, like we mentioned, lobsters live in structure. Gil uses a great explanation as far as pretty much anywhere you can catch a calico bass or a sand bass, you can catch a lobster because they live in the same environment. So a jetty is a great environment to catch a lobster. And using the Navionics app, that's honestly, if I could give something away to somebody and it'd be a game changer, it'd be the Navionics app. I use the Navionics app for everything now, for calico bass fishing, lobster fishing, tuna fishing, everything. It has these different maps, and you can see what the bottom of the ocean looks like. So you can find all these rock piles in the harbor, shipwrecks. It has all this great information in there. So what I actually do is I look at breakwalls and jetties, and I find areas where there's more rocks along the jetty than other areas of the jetty. So you'll find areas where it bulges out underwater. You can't see this, right? Because it's all underwater. So it bulges out, so there's more rock pile there. There's more crevices. There's more caves, cracks where these lobsters live. So obviously, my just thought is, there's more crevices, so potentially there's more lobster there.
Yeah.
So those are the areas, if I'm fishing the jetty, those are the areas I'm going to fish first. So Navionics app, guys. That's a key tool for me when I'm going lobster hooping. Gil, what do you think?
I agree, 100%. 100%. I think that's why we made the video on Navionics, and we use it religiously. I use it on my kayak. I have a mount for my phone and my fish finder, and I use them together. I also use them together when I'm fishing calico bass and sand bass, when I'm tournament fishing, or even when I'm trolling for trout. I use Navionics. I use Navionics for everything. Highly agree. The most important thing is you get out there and do it. And if you can only get out to your pier to do it, get out to your pier and do it. Just make sure you're abiding by the rules. You have your lobster card and you're using 2 hoop nets.
Steve Bermudez has his hearing aid turned up, and he has a great tip. Instead of just going out to the bait receiver where it's a short drive, you should drive all the way to Ensenada, like 130 miles, and buy your bait, and then come all the way back. So
why buy your bait when you can just buy the lobster right there?
Yeah, really? Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's for sure. Steve, great tip. Yes.
So it looks like Halibut Man is saying, have you guys ever used tuna heads for bait? My girlfriend got one, and I saved the head for the opener. Absolutely.
Yes, love it. Bluefin heads, yellowfin heads. They're great. Chop them up really fine, though.
So you got to chop them up.
Yeah, chop them up real fine, and the meat sticks really well to the skull of the bait, which is nice. And
super oily.
Yeah, super oily. And again, guys, we sell a sabiki rod too, Promahi, and so I always have a sabiki rod on my kayak, on my boat, and I'm in between soak times. If I have a few minutes, I'm dropping a sabiki and I'm making fresh bait. And
that's one thing to mention. There has been times where I've gone out and I'm expecting for that bait barge to be open, and it's closed.
Oh,
there's nobody there.
Yeah, especially wintertime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's slow unless you're going out hooping. There's that time of year where people aren't really fishing. The lobster thing, guys got frustrated because they're not catching, so they're not going out as much. So the bait guy is just sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
So he just goes home. And that's when you have to have that sabiki stick on
the
boat or on the kayak, because you're not gonna load everything back up and go home, right? So you're gonna try to make do with what you got. So definitely have a sabiki rod on the boat or on your kayak.
Sabiki rod, or like you choose to get like a trout rod with like a lead master's glow weight, like a 1/4 ounce with a piece of squid. If you can catch them one by one all day long, and the sabiki rig will get them as well too. But just make sure you have some type of bait rig on the boat that will get some mackerel.
And it's good to have because you might be doing a soak, and if you're running short on bait, why not just make bait while you're soaking? Right. You could either fish or make bait or do something with your time while you're just waiting for those lobster to crawl.
Yeah. That sounds good. A reminder to you all, we'll be giving away one more $25 gift card in just a little bit. Omar says, guts in or out for bait? Always felt leaving the guts was better. Might be my imagination.
Yep, guts, man. The whole thing.
Yeah.
Guts. Yep, chop them up, guts. I even do sardines, just smash them with my hands and throw them in there, or I sometimes just slice them and throw them in there. But you definitely want to get that belly cut to get that oil out. And same thing on the mackerel heads. I like to slice the mackerel heads down and fold them over to get that scent going out.
Fishing Matt Ryan, you've answered this question, but he's just joining us, so let's answer it again. He's heard that bait like sardines, mackerel is best. Fresh, is that true?
Absolutely.
Yes,
that's what you use all the time.
Fly fishermen coined the term match the hatch, and that's what we do. We match the hatch. Everything that the lobster are used to eating, that's what we want to put in front of their faces. It makes it easier. They don't have to think about it. Hey, do I like this? Do I not like this? They smell what they smell and they go after it. So it works great. Mackerel and sardine, that's my favorite.
All right, perfect. Do you need a lobster card if you're fishing off the piers?
You do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't need a fishing license.
You need a fishing license, you need a lobster card.
You always need a lobster card, period.
Yeah, yes. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
And if you're fishing on a boat and just, there's 4 guys on a boat and maybe 2 of them, 2 wives on the boat, even though the wives are not participating, they need to have their anyone on a boat that has 1 hoop net has to have, everybody on that boat has to have their lobster cards
and
their fishing
a gauge.
License. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And the gauge.
And a gauge.
Yeah.
Right.
They basically have to act like they're fishing, even though they're not participating. Because when a game warden stops you, they don't know, and you guys...
Right, you could say, they're not fishing.
Yeah, they're not fishing, but they don't know if she pulled the hoop net or didn't, or if she's going to go home with a lobster tonight.
Yeah, right.
So that's one thing to consider. If you're going out with buddies, make sure, even though if they don't plan on taking lobster home or if they don't plan on participating, they still need to have everything to be in line with the regulations.
All right. Steve Bermudez is now trying to get on your good side after insulting you and saying he couldn't hear you all night long. He's now saying, buy all your lobster equipment from Promar. Ben is a great guy. Then go to the Ensenada Fish Market. Good idea, Steve. We love it. Fishing Matt Ryan, wire cage or PVC pipe with holes?
So for me personally, I like, again, back to our seal-proof cages. I do see a lot of guys on social media making their own. I did talk to a game warden one time. He did tell me that once he sees the Promar bait cage, he knows it's a legit cage as far as speculations, things like that. He doesn't want to make, he knows that people aren't doing anything shady. But it is super important though that when you are soaking bait and then when you're putting bait in, that the bait isn't getting ghosted too much. So we talked about this with the wire bait cages. They are good for all purposes. We do carry both types of wire bait cages and seal bait cages on our boat. I personally like the seal bait cage. I like the way it's designed. We had people tell us in the past, like, oh, seals can still get into them. We have a video actually about how to snap the seal bait cage in, because you have to actually wrap this around.
Can you pull one of those out?
Yeah. You want to see it, Steve?
Yeah. I want to touch on that. So if you guys see this bait cage, we like Gil mentioned in the past, we've had guys say, hey, I use your seal-proof bait cages, but the seals are still able to get, or the sea lions are still able to get into it. So if you notice on these seal-proof bait cages, there's slack in this line, right? So and we do that so that when you pull the caps off, they're able to come off like this, and you can fill them up and then close it back up. So the thing that you have to do when you're putting them into your hoop nets is you have to eliminate that slack. A lot of guys will just slap them in there, and there's all this slack, and that slack is what gives the seals or sea lions an opportunity to pop these open.
Yeah.
And get into your bait. So what you have to do, and we have a video of this on our YouTube channel, you have to eliminate that slack, and the way that you do that is you snap one side on the ring that's in the Promar ambush hoop nets, and you wrap this other side underneath and clip it back onto itself, basically, back onto this wire.
Yeah.
And what that does is if a sea lion or a seal comes up and grabs it, all it does is apply, as they pull on it, it applies more pressure on the cap. Rather than it being able to just pop off because there's all this slack, the more they pull on it, the more pressure the seal-proof bait cage has, and it's keeping it closed. So
Gotcha.
That's one thing to consider if you guys are using the seal-proof bait cages.
How many lobster are you allowed to take? I don't know that we mentioned that.
7.
So if you, let's say you get 7 2-pounders. That's 14 pounds, if my math is right. What'd you say? $45 a pound? Yeah, it's like that, right?
Yeah. And
that's like $600 worth of just taking a wild guess.
Exactly. And
wow.
A lot of guys in recent years, because of just inflation, everybody's experiencing inflation the last few years. The hoop nets have gone up in price, and it's all due to inflation, unfortunately. Yeah. But you still figure, you know, a hoop net costs $50, $60 depending on the model that you're getting, maybe more. And you can catch, you know, if you figure you go out 3 times and you catch 3 limits in the season, that's 21 lobsters.
Yeah.
Right? If every lobster weighs at least a pound, just do the math. I mean, that's a lot of money. So when you
over $1,000.
Yeah, when you put it in perspective, if you enjoy lobster and you like giving them to your friends, and you like having barbecues, you like having.
You never give me any. What's wrong? Oh, your friends, you said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay.
People that I like.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, leaves me out.
If you put it in perspective, you know the amount that you're investing in your gear, it's really not that much.
Right.
Same thing with when you go tuna fishing, you buy your $500 reel, you buy your $300 rod. All the jigs, all the line. By the time you're spooling that reel up, that's $300 worth of line that you put on that $500 reel. There's a lot of money that's being invested, but you're going to use that gear for years and years to come. It's the same way with lobster. Only, the lobster, it's a lot more protected than tuna, and anyone that you give lobster to is gonna love you.
Oh heck yeah! Do the nets degrade over time, or should you rinse stuff with fresh water?
Yeah, we always recommend that you rinse them down.
Yeah, and then the video, like I said, I have a video talking about prepping for the season, and I always store all my stuff indoors, like in a shed or in a garage. A A lot of folks like will keep them outside, and like anything, the elements are going to tear apart the netting. Like nothing's going to last forever. You can always zip tie them, and as you inspect your net, as you watch that video again, it's on my YouTube channel at Gil Rocket, GILROCKIT. Subscribe to the channel, please. And it talks about zip tying the nets, and there actually comes a point where the net may be so damaged that we just recommend buying a new net.
All right, perfect. Q-Ball says he used to make these bait cages out of ABS fittings. And he says seals are a pain in the you-know-what. Steve Bermudez is back. I'm fishing on the rock and lobster come up to attack me. Can I fight back and have them for dinner?
Sure, as long as you have your lobster card.
As long as they
you need a lobster card to fight back?
You need a lobster card to fight lobster.
There you are, Steve.
And they have to be the right size.
I heard you can pick those up at the Ensenada Fish Market, Steve. Yeah. Man, his hearing aid all of a sudden is working really well. No problems. Hearing everything. Balboa Fish Group. Will you guys be at the PCS show this year?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be there, and we'll be at the Fred Hall Long Beach show as well.
Yeah.
That's January this year, right?
Long Beach? Yeah. January. They moved everything up, actually. So, yeah, we'll be there. We'll be at both shows.
All right, Q-Ball says, I suppose if you choked it down like a pelican. He made a comment before. I've lost track of it. Omar, any hoop nets you recommend specifically for kayaks?
There you go, Gil.
Gil, that's you, baby.
The Ambush 32. I would say the Ambush 32. Yeah, the Ambush 32 is the nets. It's our smaller ambush net. It's light. It's easy. And you can even, some of the guys in the pro anglers will go up to a 36-inch ambush, but the 32 is what I always push on my seminars.
And you've had both, and you've done both. Why do you choose the 32 versus the 36 on your kayak?
So for me, if I'm talking, so I have 36s that I fish a lot. But for someone starting out, I'm not going to put them on a 36 only because it's a bigger diameter net to throw out.
Yeah.
And I'd rather have folks get more comfortable with throwing something smaller out and more confined and pulling something a little bit easier to come up. And as they get more comfortable with it, I want them to pull the 36. So I'm always gonna market that 32-inch net to them.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's going to be the safest bet for their buck. And the last thing I want to do is discourage a kayaker when they put a bigger hoop net on and everything's just super awkward.
Yeah.
So just get the training wheels on first and get the 32. And the 32, there's actually, me and Steve were talking about this at ICAST this year. There's actually rumors that the 32 catches more lobsters than the 36. And I can't remember where I read it. We're trying to find it, but someone was telling me that too. Like the 32s outfished the 36, and we're just like, it doesn't really make sense because of the volume. But hey, maybe it is. Maybe it is. I haven't seen it yet, but maybe it is.
All right, Fishing Matt Ryan. Any tips on the most cost-effective way to get a full set of 10 hoop net setups? Rope, buoys, bait cages, etc. Can you get a discount or anything, Steve?
Yeah.
Or what's the deal?
So pretty much anywhere you go, the pricing is going to be pretty much the same on all the gear from Promar. Whether you go to Hogan's, West Marine,
Island Fishing Tackle,
Island Fishing Tackle,
Big Fish Bait and Tackle,
Rusty Hook, all these tackle stores, it's pretty much going to be relatively the same, give or take a couple bucks. The one thing that I would look out for if you guys are interested is going to the seminars, like at Turner's. Any seminars that we put on, usually there's some type of discount or a sale going on specifically on the lobster products because of the seminar.
Yeah.
So I would definitely take advantage of that. Major holidays, there's sales going, Labor Day sales, stuff like that. The best time to get a ton of gear is right after lobster season.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's trying to make space. All the retailers are trying to make space for the stuff, the upcoming rock fishing season and stuff like that.
So March would be a good time to start.
Yeah. So if you have gear now and you have good enough gear that gets you through this season, and you already know you got your gears on your last leg. Just wait until the end of the season and you can pick up some gear then. If not, if you're trying to get into it before the season and this is your first season where maybe you just got a boat or whatever, look for those, like I said, the seminars, any holidays, Black Friday sales, stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say on the seminars, if you come see any of my seminars or maybe follow my YouTube videos, or sometimes we do a special video, I will sometimes throw my own personal promo code out for gear as well.
All right, Q-Ball says he's had his nets for 7 years. They look new, rinse, and keep in the garage. So it sounds like they have a good long shelf life. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That's good. You boys both need to give your YouTube channels another hit for Mitch, Halibut Man, because he wants to subscribe, and I'm sure a lot of other people out there do. So go ahead.
I'm at for social media. I'm at Gil Rocket, GILROCKIT. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My YouTube channel is Gil Rocket as well. Always posting videos on lobster, calico bass, trout fishing, anything saltwater, freshwater fishing. Also, I have a website at Rocket Fishing. That's ROCKIT fishing.com, and there you'll be linked to all my seminars as well as the Promar sites, all my supporters, my guide prices, everything that I'm doing as far as where I'm speaking, whether in-state, out-of-state. We'll have something for you.
Yeah,
and
Steve?
For us, if you guys want to, watch some of these videos that we mentioned in this seminar, we have a huge library at Promar, so visit us on YouTube, Promar Ahi USA, or our website, promarahi.com. And then if you want to hit me up and ask me questions, if you guys need help or need tips, you're more than welcome to hit me up on social media, on Instagram, Facebook. Preferably Instagram. That's usually the easiest thing for me to get back to you on. It's Steve, STEVE _Oropeza, OROPEZA.
Oropesa.
That's right.
What's wrong with your Spanish pronunciation? Aren't you Mexican?
Yes, I am.
¿Tú hablas español?
He's a real Mexican.
Do you have any videos in Spanish?
No, Joaquin does.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
Joaquincito lindo.
Yeah.
Pobrecito. All right, Steve Bermudez, are you going to have a live broadcast on Saturday to announce the winner of the raffle? Maybe. That's a good idea, Steve. We're going to do that. We're doing a raffle. We're giving away a reel, and the proceeds go to ship more stuff to Mexico, as you know.
I thought you said I won the raffle.
Oh, yeah, you're not supposed to announce that until Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on, Steve. You just blew it. Now I got to actually give it away. Good idea, Steve. Balboa Fish Club, Catch 'em Tackle. Yeah, so I guess that's another good place.
Yeah, they got all our stuff.
Where are they?
Catch 'em Tackle is Orange County, I believe.
Is it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of great guys, right? All these local tackle stores. Cue ball. Hey, Phil, remember the Carl Newell seminars at Turner's? That was a while. I sure do, man. That was a while ago. Probably before Steve was born. Yeah, definitely. Gil Rocket, Balboa Fish Club. Rocket Fishing. Is that you too?
That is me, yes, Rocket Fishing. That's my company there, Rocket Fishing. If you see me at a seminar, we'll give you cool stickers. We have some apparel coming out. A lot of cool stuff. If you want a guide, if you want a seminar at your store, maybe you're a tackle warehouse person, you want us to come out and do that.
Go into detail about all the services that you offer. I mean, there's a lot of guys that probably
could use those services.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't only just do guiding on the water. I also do what's it called? FaceTime stuff. What is the FaceTime thing called again? Right. It's COVID.
Consulting?
No, I do consulting, but we do.
You mean, Zoom? Or?
Zoom.
Yeah.
Now COVID's over. We don't even talk about Zoom anymore. So I do Zoom.
FaceTime?
Yeah, I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, she's the boss over there. So
Danielle, straighten this guy.
Yeah, I know.
She's starving, by the way. She's
serious.
enough about lobster.
She wants Mexican food, man. So yeah, I do Zoom sessions. I also do kids events. I do guiding on the water. Most of my guiding will be from calico bass to lobster. I also do guiding up in the Sierras. So I do a little bit of everything. I'm supported by a lot of people. Earlier in my career, I did a lot of tournament fishing for saltwater bass, SOBA, stuff like that. But now I guess they say I'm an influencer now. I'm influencing people, right?
Excellent.
Have I influenced you today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm influencing people. So yeah, there you can visit me on my website. I will be at Turner's Lake Forest this Friday at 6 o'clock. We'll be doing a really in-depth seminar. Again, please call Turner's too. That is one of our biggest seminars of the year. I'm at all the main stages at the Pacific Coast Sport Fishing Show, the Fred Hall Fishing Show. So I'm usually at the Hall Show on 3 different stages. At the PCA Show, I'm on 3 different stages. I'm running around doing stuff. And I will be at Bass Pro Shop at 2 o'clock on Sunday talking lobsters as well. But again, visit my YouTube channel, my Instagram, or my Facebook for more info.
You're not on TikTok?
I did a TikTok thing, man. I haven't got into that yet.
I don't know. It's just another thing.
I don't know how to dance, you know? I'm not a dancer.
I'm doing TikTok.
Yeah.
And one thing that I want to mention about Gil too is if you're trying to get into the lobster fishing and you don't want to quite invest in all the gear yet, you can hire Gil. He'll bring all the gear for you. You can try it out on your boat.
See if you like it.
On a kayak.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll go on your boat as well. Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
He'll get you dialed in on where to
teach
fish.
you how to do your fish finder, do all that stuff.
And then that way you can figure out if it's something that you want to do on your own, if it's something that you want to invest in, and then go from there.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Steve. Steve's like my front man right now.
In fact, Blue Sky says Steve's a good promoter.
He is. He's my guy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No wonder you're in trouble.
Yeah, he's my
That's your guy.
guy.
You're going right down the tube.
He flies me out the best these days.
When I was serving beer at the Orange County Fair, some really gorgeous, I shouldn't say that, some lovely ladies would come out, and they were influencers.
Yeah.
And so then I'd say, I'm on TikTok, and you're on TikTok.
They'd laugh,
Yeah, basically. They'd laugh, and then I'd go, how many likes do you think I have on TikTok? And they go, 200? And I go, how about 455,000? Yeah, right. And then they, what the? And it's so out of whack. I don't get it. I think I have 4,000 followers, but I don't know where all these likes came from. Were you hitting the like button for me?
Yeah.
You don't even believe it's 450.
We just sit there all night.
Danielle's going to check it later. She'll stick up for me. Cue ball, that fog, though, it kicked my butt. Fog is another really dangerous thing, right?
For sure.
Do you go on a foggy night?
Yeah, but you got to stay close. You got to know how far to go. You got to read your fish finder. You got to have your the lights on your boat.
You get run over, right?
Yeah, it's super dangerous, especially in a kayak. And there's just times where it's just not worth it. You just got to say it's not worth it to come in, or maybe hoop a little bit closer, where the fog isn't, overwhelming so much. But I remember several days hooping out in like Santa Monica where the fog is so thick, or even Dana Point, where it's just like, this ain't worth it.
Yeah, right.
It's not worth it. Your life ain't worth a lobster.
Yep. Go ahead.
So for me, I'm on the opposite end of that, actually.
You like the fog.
I would
I
not.
know why,
if
because there's
on,
not as many people
Exactly.
out.
So if I was on a kayak, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, if he was on,
Yeah.
if you're on a boat, it's different. On a kayak, no way.
You got radar, so you can keep an eye on things coming, things going.
Yeah.
You can set your radar to different.
You have radar on your boat?
Not on my boat, my buddy's boat.
Yeah.
I'm getting radar though.
Yes.
Gil's gonna help me out with that. So I definitely love going out when I know there's fog coming, because I know that nobody else is gonna be out there. And then I also kind of pick and choose areas where I know there's not going to be a lot of boat traffic. So if, just for example, Angels Gate break wall, on the west side of Angels Gate, there's not any boat traffic because you got the pier area there.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it's not a main channel where there's a lot of people going through.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty safe there. I'm still keeping an eye, and I go with multiple people. I don't just go by myself. I don't even go with one other person. I go with at least 2 other people. And one person's job is to keep an eye on the radar to see if there's anybody coming around us, getting close. And if there is, then we start honking the horn. We make noise.
Right.
We have all our lights on. We radio, we communicate, we let people know, hey, we're out in this area, general area, just to be safe.
Where do you do that? On Channel 16?
Exactly, Channel 16.
Yeah.
But typically, we don't see anybody out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
perfect,
it's
right?
awesome. We get the whole area to ourselves.
Yeah. Have you had great nights in the fog?
The best. Yeah. And, because of the fog, it helps cover up the light a little bit. So, it's nice. It doesn't scare me too much just because I have all my safety equipment ready and working properly. So I actually feel pretty confident.
Having said that, you've been on the water for quite a few years. You know what you're doing. Yeah. So a novice guy might want to think twice.
Yeah, or hire someone like Gil. Yeah. Bring somebody that's more experienced. Or go with, hire a charter captain and have them walk you through all the safety equipment. Obviously, don't just go out and do it without doing a little bit of homework or hiring someone or bringing someone that's more experienced than you to help you out with.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Sure.
Have you thought of another brilliant question? Because that last one was really good. We're not quite ready yet, but I just want your gears turning because mine are not turning.
Oh, I think I got one. We didn't talk about this.
Well, I don't know if we want to do it quite yet. Let's do one more.
I got one.
We're getting ready for another big $25 giveaway. And the new Freeman Adventures light stick. No, that's mine. I'm not giving that away.
This is going on the float?
Yeah, right? Will it fit? Yeah, drill a bigger hole.
We'll get some ideas, man.
All right, dude, it comes in so fast, this cue ball. Fisherman Matt Ryan. Do they crawl better after the rain? Yes. Good question.
Yes. You talked about that.
Yes.
Yes,
he missed it. So.
Yes, they do. They do definitely. The rain brings them in. The weather brings them in. Stirs at the bottom. Rings that dinner bell. It's just like an extra current for them, right? There's more bait in the water. Everything's kind of feeding on everything, and they just kind of stirs everything up.
I kind of go ahead.
What I was going to say is the reason that they crawl better in the rain is because there's all this crap in the water. The water is dirty.
Yeah.
Everything likes to eat lobster. Right now, when I'm calico fishing on the wall, I use these little creature baits. It looks like a baby lobster, and I've only been using them for a couple months, and they work really well. But that tells me everything eats lobster. Calico bass, salmon bass, seals, sea lions, everything. Eats lobster. Yeah. So if they feel safer because the water is dirty and it's harder for stuff to see them, then they're gonna crawl a lot better. So that's kind of what you have to consider after it rains. When it rains, all your gutters fill up, all this water from the city goes into that river that dumps out into Long Beach.
Right.
All these rivers that dump it out into the water, and it makes the water nasty, and lobsters love it.
Yeah.
They feel protected, things can't see them, and they crawl further away from those rocks, so you're able to get them in areas where you normally maybe have a tougher time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've associated with the rain. It makes them feel safer.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah, it's kind of
100%.
like, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but like surfish will stage behind the breaking waves. The waves break and dredges up all those sand crabs and clams and everything else, and then in they come to feed, and then they back off again. And so when you get these storms, it dredges up all the stuff you're talking about, Gil, right?
Yep.
And turns those little devils on, man.
Yep, turns that dinner bell on.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, okay. Any examples of what to look for on the fish finder when looking for a good spot to hoop?
We talked about earlier in the seminar, we talked about the valleys. We talked about rocky spots that kind of go down. So we kind of use this as an example. If there's a rock pile here, and there's a valley in between, we like to drop our hoop nets dead in the middle of that. And Steve referenced too in our videos, we talk about this in depth actually. We actually show the fish finder exactly where to drop the hoop net. And some of your fish finders out there, you can actually physically see the hoop net being dropped on that structure.
What a great seminar. We're 5 minutes short of 2 hours, you guys. So we're getting ready to wrap it up. It's flown by. There's been a lot of great knowledge here. So much more. For example, the red tide and the bioluminescence.
So bioluminescence, I've never had much luck when it's red tide or there's especially bioluminescence. So bioluminescence, anytime anything moves in the water, it's gonna flash. It's gonna turn on. It's gonna be a luminous flash. Right?
Yeah.
So if you figure lobster as they're walking, they're leaving a trail of bioluminescence. That's telling everything. Hey, there's something moving there. I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah, right.
So
big old neon sign.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. So I've never had much luck when you go out to Redondo Beach and you see the waves breaking and you see that pretty bioluminescence. I don't go.
Yeah, same here. Same with the red tide as well.
Yeah, red tide bait. Nothing is active, and if nothing is active, then the lobster are not going to be active.
Right, that makes sense. Omar wants to know what's the highest wind, knots that you're willing to tolerate when hooping on a kayak. 15? Is that too much? You been out in 20.
I hate the wind, man.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah, I hate the wind.
I gotta guess.
Yeah, I hate the wind. Around the 15 mark, yeah.
That's getting up there, I would think, on a kayak.
I've done worse, and like I said, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it on the kayak. I mean, you have till March. Pick the right day.
Find a calm day.
Yeah, I got a motor in my kayak now, so I'm kind of cheating. So I'm with Torquedo now. So Torquedo picked me up last year, so I can go like 7 miles an hour on my kayak, so I have every reason to be out in the wind. I just hate being out in the wind.
Yeah.
It's just miserable.
How about you on your boat? Are you gonna fish in 20?
So every year on the opener, I hope it's blowing like hell.
Yeah, because it cuts down the people.
Well, not only that, but I have a few spots where I know that I'm protected from the wind.
Ooh.
So
sneaky little devil.
So
are you gonna share those?
No. So so if it's blowing like hell, nobody's gonna be out there on the opener.
Yeah, right.
And I'm gonna be out there.
Yeah.
And I know where to go. I'm not gonna say where. But I'm protected. I can fish no problem. I can drop right on the spot. The wind's not pushing me away. I mean, it's awesome. But because it's an area that not a lot of people know about, everybody thinks that you know, they're not going to go out when it's blowing 20, 25, and I'm out there and I'm catching them. So I will go out in the wind if it's on opener. If it's later in the season, those spots have already been hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
So I don't even bother. But that's the only time. That's the only time I'll go out in the wind.
I'll be on his boat and not on the kayak.
There you go. Steve says the lobster's on the carnivore list for sure. Yeah, I'm on the carnivore diet now. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. So yeah, it definitely is. Steve with these insightful, brilliant questions. An indication that now he has moved into the bottle of tequila. Can he surffish for lobster?
That's illegal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, tell Steve.
Yeah, that's illegal. We see guys doing it.
I think you can do it in Ensenada at the fish market.
Oh,
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah.
Put the
Fishing
bottle
Matt Ryan.
down.
When using fresh bait, should I cut it up or leave it whole?
I cut it up.
Yes.
In little pieces, or
Um,
do you take a typical sardine and cut it in 3 pieces?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'm almost using like I don't know. I'm just chopping it up. I don't really count how many pieces. For a while, there was a guy making these like they almost,
Oh, that's a good idea.
they almost
I know
look
what you're
like
gonna say.
yeah, like jackhammer type thing. I don't
Yeah.
know.
You mean you can take it and it's your
Yeah,
sardines cut in 3
yeah.
pieces?
I had a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, dumped a bunch of sardines in there, and I just kind of
Oh.
did this, and it had
Yeah.
like blades on it. So I'd chop. It was like the perfect size for a 5-gallon bucket, and I'd chop a bunch of bait and just did it like 10 times. And you know, things that you normally take 5 to 10 minutes, as far as on a cutting board cutting bait, that thing did it in like 20 seconds.
Wow. Man, I hope no mass murderers are listening to this. It's a good way to get rid of a body, it sounds like.
I don't know if that guy is still in business or not, but
Probably went to jail.
he that thing was awesome.
Invented it
I
to
used
cut up
that.
sardines. Who's he kidding?
Yeah, that worked really good.
Yeah, and so you don't know if it's still available?
I haven't seen it in any of the shops lately. I got mine like, I don't know, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it in any of the shops. I didn't see it in any of the shops last year, and I haven't seen it recently.
A 2-hour show. How can you beat that?
There you go.
Poor Danielle is like, can we please go eat some Mexican food? I'm starving. All right, we have one more question, and we'll do we'll do our question for $25. Do fish guts work? I know we've asked it, but just fish guts. Can you put fish guts in?
The problem with fish guts is they're going to dissipate pretty quickly in your bait cage.
Yeah.
So there's no consistency. There's nothing for them to hold on to. Chopping the bait is always great. I don't like chopping the bait so fine, like to get it to like, you know, tuna, right? Like a tuna can stuff. It's just going to just float away. And so for me, the bigger the pieces for me are going to be better. I even taken, and I'm not a big believer on a kayak of cutting bait on your boat. So I don't do like a lot of cutting. I don't like people bringing knives on a kayak. So for me, a lot of times I'm just breaking bait.
Yeah.
You know, and smashing bait, and just anything to get that scent out into the water. And again, I'm using the bite-on stuff. I'm doing the sprays and the cloths.
Oh,
so
we're giving that.
yes, we're gonna give this away too.
Oh, there we go. We got 2 things to give away.
We're giving the bite-on away as well. We're gonna give a spray away and a cloth away. You can pick that up here at the landing, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it in the next.
And you'll get some cool rocket fishing stickers as well. Put them on your local street signs and bathrooms, right?
All right, Steve has another brilliant question, and then Gilbert's going to have to ask a question.
Yeah.
Are we going to give separately?
It's up to you guys.
No,
right?
it's up to you.
Yeah, let's give them.
So you're going to have to come up with 2 brilliant questions.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, so this
What's
one,
your brilliant question?
we didn't talk about this. I don't think we did, but if someone's savvy on lobster hooping, this should be an easy one.
Here we go. $25 gift certificate.
How big does a lobster's carapace have to be for it to be legal?
Wow, very good question.
So
What the hell is a carapace, as most people are saying out there?
that would be the back. That would be the shell, not the tail. The shell is the carapace.
Come on, who's going to get? I bet you Mitchell gets it again. Halibut man, watch out. Nobody knows the answer to this?
Guys are running into the garage right now.
Yeah, they're Googling it.
Grab their lobster.
Fish and Matt Ryan, 3.5 inch.
3 and a
About-
quarter. That's right.
Is it?
3. Oh no, 3 and a quarter.
3 and a quarter. It's
Yeah.
3 and a
Who's
quarter.
got it?
3 and a quarter.
Hubie
3 and a quarter.
is the winner. Man, I love it. Hubie, right?
Yep.
So we got to write. All right, somebody writing these down so we know
They
who
gotta
won.
DM you or send you the
Oh yeah, you got to DM me, Hubie. On
on YouTube so that you know it's from him.
can they DM? Oh yeah, I think.
Yeah, they
Can
can
they?
send a message.
Okay, perfect. We should write it down.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could go back and look at it.
Yeah.
Alan, who was here today, and I spent some really good time. Phil, you're doing a great job bringing us the info we need to know to make our fishing adventures the best. great guests tonight. Alan's a great guy, man. You guys are getting kudos here tonight.
Cool.
And then a whole bunch of other guys came in with the answer. Oh, Balboa Fish Club was an inch off. All right, so Hubie won that one. Your turn.
All right, so we're going to do some bite-on spray. Again, this is one of the greatest products I've used as far as getting some extra scent in your bait cage. And for this question is going to be, what is the most important thing that you need to have when you go lobster fishing?
The most important thing you need to have when going lobster fishing. And we're waiting now. By the way, Fisherman Rice's great show tonight. A bunch of other guys are saying, Omar says a life vest.
Oh,
well, you can argue that, right? Fishing. But you did.
I would say this. Let's get a little more in depth on this question.
All right, you got a whole bunch of answers coming in. Battle on fishing, a pin. Bait.
Who said the pin?
Battle on fishing.
Yeah, he knows the pin. The pin. You remember, you guys can do nothing with lobster fishing without a pen. Lobster fishing is a game of documentation. Without a pen, you can't even leave the dock. Okay? So that's for him.
Is that more important than a life vest?
Well, but the thing is, you'll never even leave the dock. There's no reason for the life vest if you don't have a pen.
All right. We'll go with that. Lots of guys with lobster card, gauge and card, blue sky, tag, measuring device. Danielle's going to kill us if we don't end this show in the next 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, last one here is lobsters have the same characteristics as what fish?
Lobster has the same characteristics. I don't know if I know that. Is what fish?
We talked about it in the show.
A bucher grouper.
Yeah.
No?
They have the same characteristics as far as...
So you can write a note while you drown, says Omar.
We talked about
Omar, I'll have something for you. Don't worry. That was, crab is not a fish. Bass.
Battle on. Who's that?
Battle on fishing again.
Yes, bass. Wow.
Battle on fishing again?
Yes.
He won something before?
Yeah.
What did he win?
He won the bite on spray.
Oh, he got both of them.
So he got both of them.
Battle on fishing. He's kicking butt.
Yeah, so he gets them both.
Battle on fishing.
Pick that up here at the landing.
Yes, battle on fishing. You'll have to come here to the landing, or I can take it over to Island Fishing Tackle, or I can take it over to, what's his name? The Rusty Hook. We'll figure it out. You just need to send me a text to my phone, you guys who won, please. That'll make it way easier. 657-227-6459. Is that your phone number, Steve?
He's in Channel Islands. We're going to have to mail it to
Yeah, we'll get it out to you. Don't worry. 657-227-6459. And then we can get you, just give me your address and we'll have Steve send that out. He's got more money than I do.
Yes.
All right. Anything else, boys? You want to hit your...
Well, Ben sent it out.
Huh? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
You sure?
Yeah, and if
I hate to end the show.
If you guys have more questions, like I said, feel free to visit us on promarahi.com and check out all of our resources on our library.
Yeah.
Shoot us an email. We'll be happy to help you guys out. Gil, why don't you give them your information again?
Yeah, one more time. I'm on Instagram at Gil Rocket. That's GILROCKIT. Also on Facebook. You can visit me on my YouTube channel at Gil Rocket as well. Again, GILROCKIT. Or visit me on my website at Rocket Fishing. That's ROCKIT fishing.com.
All right. Cue Ball says good night, good times, and good luck this year. Halibut Man, thanks for another great episode. Hit that like button. Danielle, do you think you could push that little X up in the top corner there? And then I think it says end also at the end of that. Let's say good night, everybody. Thanks,
good night,
everybody.
guys.
Good times.